I'm just sharing it right now.
What is going on, everybody?
Oh shit, we got a clown in here. What's that?
We have a. What's going on, y'all?
I should go get my Phrygian cap. Maybe I'll go find my Phrygian cap. I feel like I'm out of place now. I completely forgot you told me about that too.
I didn't have any face paint or anything like that. Hey, what's up, Steven?
What guys?
What's up, man?
I didn't get the memo about the clown requirement.
No, that's only on that was up to you guys. You can figure out your own costumes. It's a battle of the costumes, and we've already won. So
yeah,
you guys are starting off on you guys are starting off on the wrong foot here. You got to come with your A game. All right,
you won that. You won that one for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. It's called heuristics, baby.
Yeah. By the way, isn't it a little odd that Ammon's going live 2 nights in a row on the night that we're doing this? Where
he's got some I think he's got the muse. Man.
I think he's pulling some defense, dude. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, I did kind of like throw a wrench in the works there by literally just showing the world his entire act. You know what I mean? I
don't think that's what he's doing, but yeah. Sure.
I mean. I showed most.
I think you did apologetics about maybe what his act should be if he wasn't being a liar. But
if his act didn't suck, I guess I did a better version of his act.
You're fixing his act in a way.
There you go. I did a better version of his act. I'm a better Ammon than Ammon is.
Yeah.
And I think it's abundantly clear now because I have the mask and the nose and everything that I'm in character. So. It's hard for people to sort of.
Let me ask you about that. You said when I asked you about the stream lab, because when you found Henderson, you came to me and you're like, dude, look at this shit, man. This is like, I was like, okay, let's take a look. And then we had a conversation, and you were showing me the same stuff that you were showing Chase.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where's the drugs? Where's the purple? Where's the prepubescent? I was like, all right, you got the word culpos there. That's already in the LSJ. I already knew about that. And I didn't see, honestly, I wasn't even impressed. But so then we parted ways, and then I seen you going live on here, and it was like, dude, Ammon, he's been this whole time he's been doing this for the 1975 debate, and I was like, and I called you, I was like, bro,
I know,
what the fuck, dude, we just talked about.
Here's
hold on, didn't you tell me that you were in character and that you weren't being serious on the phone?
I mean, not that I wasn't being. It wasn't that I was not being serious about everything, but yeah, I'm absolutely in character.
You told me that I was in character. I was showing them how silly this is.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you how absurd, how bad his methodology is.
Okay,
you know what I mean, and like basically demonstrating to the world how you can misrepresent sources, or you can find something that looks like it supports you, but if you use the wrong methodology, you're completely fucked, right?
Well, yeah,
and that's one of the things that
the word copos, for example, if you go to the LSJ,
right.
There's an entry in there where it says yes, used for vagina. It even references the same passage that Henderson references in that book. So that wasn't even anything new. The problem is, it doesn't equal vagina. It's you. It's like if I said if I said I got a new box from Amazon today, and I opened up my box and I got a new book. And then somebody like Ammon comes along and goes, this text actually says he opened up his vagina. Because we say she got her box eaten out last night. Box is used for vagina. But that doesn't mean that every time you find the word box, it equals vagina. This is so 101 simple that I'm just like,
right. So that's sort of what I was trying to demonstrate at the beginning of the interview with Steven here, was with the analogy. How you can do it appropriately, right? Like just like you did, like, if you're eating a box, then that word's appropriate there. But it's not appropriate to use the Urban Dictionary to translate Moby Dick, right? Like that's what Ammon does, is that he basically takes what would be appropriate only in the context of a stage play and applies it to, all sorts of things where it doesn't apply.
Well, for example, the word Christ.
And I think I think we just like cleared the air. We pretty much agree mostly at this point, right? Like it's not even a battle royale anymore. It's like I threw some bombs in there because I was trying to demonstrate to Carrier that actually satire does have a value when it comes to communicating this stuff. It's a very good mode for.
Yeah, but my only problem with that is most people who watch that, only 600 people that watch that probably don't think that you're doing satire or that you're trying to show how silly it is. They think you're defending Ammon, which is fine if you really believe that. We could debate it, but it seems like you don't really believe it anymore. So
No, and that's the thing is that I didn't believe it in the first place. What I was trying to do is show like, hey, this is. Oh,
I don't care if people believe it. I'm not mad at people for believing that. I just
no, but here's the thing.
I'm here to debate it. You know what I mean?
Well, I was telling you before is that I'm a mythicist, man. Like you and I disagree with on that, but like that's fundamentally incompatible with Ammonism. You can't be an Ammonite and a mythicist at the same time. Because if you don't believe Jesus existed, then you don't believe that Jesus was in a garden with a naked boy or like that.
It's all just made up, so it doesn't matter. But
so it doesn't matter.
It does matter what the author was trying to convey with the text that he was writing.
That's true.
That's also
you can just say that.
Here's the thing: is that death of the author is one of those things that has been widely established since the 1960s when Ronald Barthes wrote that little 7-page essay. You know what I mean? So. A lot of very good philology has come out of.
Ammon's not doing that though. He's not.
Ammon doesn't.
Ammon is saying this is what the author meant to say. Ammon is arguing Mark meant to say Jesus was in a public park with a kid at 4 a.m. extracting purple drugs from him somehow. That's what he's trying to say.
He's saying that's the plain reading of the text.
That's the plain reading of the text according to the Greek. That's what he says.
Right. Well, and what he said last night specifically was that if he were to go, he said the Bible scholars won't debate me, but if I were to debate a classicist,
which is a lie, by the way, because we have Luke Gordon who just emailed Danny.
Okay. So the dichotomy is this: on the one hand, Bible scholars won't debate me. On the other hand, classicists, if we could get one to debate me, they would agree with me, and they would just evaluate my work and say this is just translation,
which is false because Luke Gordon not only already thinks Ammon's out of his fucking mind, but he's already agreeing to do it, which it's in the works. Don't worry, Danny's talking to him. We're not going to lose it. But I just want to say before I present my first little passage here. Look at Chase. Oh shit!
The goddamn clown show.
That was a good entry. We should have had the music going like WWF, dude. Oh, that would have been sick.
But anyway,
I do think last night So I was mad when I saw last night. And I texted a couple of you going, Ammon's fucking lying.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna admit he wasn't lying. I found out that he didn't know about the second. So here's what happened. First of all, I think the stream last night was bullshit, and I think it shows that he really doesn't want to debate Carrier. I'll tell you why. Carrier sent him an email basically saying, here's what I would like to debate. Here's my parameters. He was open to a response with some wiggle room on maybe some adjustments. Why would you ever jump on a live stream and go, he's scared to debate me and then take yourself out of the debate? Because here's what actually happened. He sent that to Danny. Danny looked at it and goes, the fuck's with all these parameters, dude? Does he want bumper? This is bowling with bumpers now? What are we doing? And I agree. Carrier was really, it sounded like Carrier was a little bit scared to go into the ring and be shown that he might not know something. Oh no, an expert doesn't know something. Oh no, big fucking deal. I would take I will take any challenge that Ammon throws at me. I don't care if I don't know it. I'll just say, fuck, you got me. I don't know that verse from Homer. It's got a Hoplox Lagonima. I don't know it. Boom. Who cares? Move on to the next one. Carrier's afraid to be on camera and be shown to not know something. That's my personal opinion. However, when Danny sent him a response and said, hey, maybe we should open this up a little bit. Maybe there's more things we want to discuss. Carrier was receptive and threw out, okay, you're right. Let's do some Greek translating, and he gave him a whole second list. I have the second list. I can show it to you. Now, here's the thing, though. Ammon did not know.
Creo is going to include all of his favorite examples.
Yeah. Let me pull that up in a second. But Ammon didn't, and to be fair to Ammon, he didn't know about the second email. He only knew about the first email. However, that is still the fact that he jumped on a live stream and pulled out of the debate over an initial email. They didn't even get to, they're not even working out terms of how the debate's going to go. And Ammon's already pulling out, tells me he's actually afraid to debate him. Now, I said from the beginning, forget about Carrier. Carrier's not a classicist. He's not trained in Greek like Ammon is.
He's a historian.
Luke is a historian. Yeah, he can debate this. It's not. It would be a good debate. Carrier would be equipped to do Greek. He knows a little bit of Greek. Probably knows more than me.
Right.
But Luke Gordon is an actual classical philologist. Luke Gordon is a Greek expert who teaches Greek at a university. So what the fuck are we doing with Carrier? Who cares about Carrier? We got Luke. So let's let Danny handle that, and then we can see what this is all going to happen. Now,
Unless he pulls out.
Unless he will pull out.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I already know Ammon's gonna pull out.
Never gonna happen.
But so let me show you where I think I got the didn't you send me, Stephen, the second? Do you want to pull it up maybe?
Yeah, I
the
can pull it up if you guys want to see.
While you're pulling that up, let me share my screen on the bottom. Witch Doctor. All right, so this is the culpos thing. And I want to clarify something, because I don't think anybody, there might have been one anti-Ammonite idiot out there that I'm not aware of. I don't care. But as far as I know, Carrier in his blog acknowledged culpos can mean vagina. He even showed a screenshot of this right here. Vagina, where it literally has the word gunaikaion. Gunaikaion means naked. Or woman. I'm sorry.
Well,
woman.
it's sorry. What it's saying is it's equals aidoion gunaikaion,
Yes.
right? So aidoion, that word on the left, right after the equal sign, that is the word for vagina.
Yes.
And gunaikaion means womanly or like female, basically.
Of a woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just they're saying it's synonymous. They mean the same thing.
Yes. What I'm trying to say is, when the context is there. This is like the word Christ. This is a perfect example what Ammon does with the word Christ. And he does it here with culpos. Yes, culpos can mean vagina. When the context is clear, you can see it. You can tell. It'll say something like, and she put the alabastrum in her culpos. And you're like, oh, fuck. They're using the word. But when it says Persephone or Corey is gathering flowers in her culpos, you really think she's sticking flowers in her vagina, dude? Really? No. And another thing, real quick, Chase, I'll let you respond 1 second. Last point, I'll give it over to Chase. Christ, yes, you can use that term to put drugs on somebody, or the word is a verb, to anoint, to dab, to smudge, whatever you want to call it. Though when you're using it with, by the way, Ammon has clearly said dozens of times, and Danny knows this now. Danny's acknowledged this. He says Christ always means drugs. He doesn't say it does a few times or it does most of the time. He says it always means drugs. That's just wrong. If it has the word pharmakon in there, and there are Christos and pharmakon are in the same sentence, then you know. This is why last time we did the stream about 3 weeks ago, I brought you guys 2 really good sources of drug use in the word Christ, because I wanted to show you. I know this. I'm not saying Christ can't mean drugs. Video. I'm just saying it doesn't always mean drugs. I mean, you got to look at the context. All right, Chase, go ahead.
Medicated salves, and like Seaman was putting that video together.
Yeah.
To try to show.
First, I want to promote my book. It's No Thigh Butthole. Butthole.
Nice.
And yeah, it's filling in the gaps of antiquity. I use a translation lexicon of loin, D, ancient Greek. So, anywho, yeah, I see what you're saying there. So I guess this would be a question for you because of your vast knowledge, and both y'all and anybody in here actually. So when I see what you're talking about, like that she gathers, flowers for whatever else it might not mean, vagina and stuff like that. So when we parallel those with the Dionysian Orphic cults, the Eleusinian mystery cults, the Mithraism, the Isis, Osiris mysteries, Pythagorean Brotherhood cults, cults of Sybil and Attis, and all the other mysteries all around, they are all doing practices with disciples, initiations, meals, birth, death, and resurrection, which would make sense as a rite of passage for any tribe, because a lot of tribes have stuff like that, including the Gitai, which you turned me on to. I want to do a video about Tenet, but the Gitai, if you've seen the movie Tenet, it's the Gitai cult. I'm going to make a whole video on this, and but it starts with like, if you notice the language, it's like you choose a hero, he sacrifices himself, he ends up becoming the bridge that keeps time going. You're in a pincer, right? And the tyrant will try to destroy the universe, and the other people sacrifice themselves to keep going. But in the Gitai like story or whatever else, that it's also actually a mystery rite initiation. And you can tell in the movie that he does this, because dramatically you start with a cacophony. He's in an orchestra room, and there's a cacophony and confusion, all this other stuff. And then he goes through a death part where he chooses to die nobly or whatever else, die for his virtue. Then he awakens into the new world. In this new world, he has to figure out what's going on. He has to go backwards in order to learn what he needs to do to go forwards. And then he ends up actually not being the hero. It's Robert Pattinson who dies unseen, right? As opposed to dying in glory and in front of everybody, something like that. He becomes the architect, which is related to the Gitai cult figure that was the guy that would travel through time, go underground, and then he'd appear and he would look like he didn't age and stuff like that. But when I'm bringing all that stuff together, I don't know if you remember that cult specifically. When I tell a story about it, they would take the soldier, and the idea was the hero sacrificed himself, and then he went through this crazy thing, shot back in time with the gods and stuff like that. When you look at how those plot points are, that's described to me. That seems to mirror and describe what would happen during a drug initiation, which would be, when you're going to find out, you're going to know thyself. You're going to be put into an initiation thing that's going to be terrifying. It's going to be really crazy, maybe physically exhaustive as well as being drug induced. You're going to go through some kind of ego death, and then you're going to have to experience whatever that is, going back into your epigenetics or whatever the psychedelic things are bringing out for people to connect with who they are and what they need to do in order to go forward as an adult and contribute back. And then the path becomes, that's the hero's journey as well. And the path becomes, do you choose to, with this knowledge, do good, or do you choose to become a tyrant? So that's the hero and villain archetype. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but with all of these plot points and stuff like that, when you start lining them up, the only one that does not make sense is the Christian one. And the only one that seems to echo not making sense is still the Christian one with faith-based films. People do not connect to them unless you are a true believer of that thing, right? But no, it doesn't universally connect ever. Like people just like, I know what's going to happen. This movie sucks. I don't connect to it, whatever else. And I'm not learning anything, right? So the fact that that echo is still there to me, and then the echo of the patterns in all of these other cults, I'm not saying that everything he's saying is exactly like correct or whatever else, but if they are translated into cultic texts, that Orphic voice is describing some kind of operating system. So I don't know. That was a lot. So sorry about that.
No, look, you're pointing out, you're saying these mystery religions have this initiation rites that are oftentimes, the Kukayan, the Soma, the whatever, like they have these initiations with drugs. And I agree with you. Like, for example, if I can show my screen one more time, because you talk about Christianity, and that's the wrong one. Let me sorry about that. This one. I've showed this on Danny Jones's channel before. This is from Saint Hippolytus talking about early Christians. They call them Gnostics now, but these were Valentinians. These were in Rome. This is the disciple of Valentinus, the successor of Valentinus. His name was Marcus. They call him the Magus. And according to Hippolytus, he would, by sleight of hand, where does it say? By sleight of hand. Is this the right one? Let me just see. Marcus, by sleight of hand. Sleight. Here it is. Okay, so he says Marcus, the Eucharistic cup, where he's taking, basically, this is what St. Hippolytus is saying about him. He's dissing him. He doesn't like him. He says he takes the cup as if offering the Eucharistic prayer. So this is initiation into being saved, right? Baptism is another initiation, but Eucharist, it was a higher level of initiation. It's like a Mithraism. You go from level 1 to level 2. This is a higher level, according to these early Christians, right? So he talks about how he would dupe them by putting a purple drug into their Eucharist. And I've been upfront about this. I have tons of videos where I talk about this. I've never hid this. I'm not saying this is wrong.
What's this from again?
This is from Saint Hippolytus's against all heresies, where he literally says right here, very often taking the cup, offering the Eucharist, prolonging as usual the word invocation, he would cause the appearance of a purple, sometimes red mixture, so that his dupes imagine. I showed this on Ammon's channel before too. Certain grace descended on, communicated the blood red potent. And basically what would happen is infusing the secretly mixture drug that possessed the power of imparting a color, the purple, uttering a considerable time nonsensical expression. So they're tripping out on drugs here, these women. He gives them to women. And then in expectation of offering the blah, 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 the drugs possess the quality of furnishing the effect. And he says right here, he would offer the following invocation: grant the inconceivable and ineffable grace with existence. We may fill your inner man and make you abound to your knowledge, your grace. And then said he'd perform a miracle as if like the God was coming down and giving visions to the girl, and then she would basically relay the oracle to these Christians. Now, so does that mean Ammon's right about everything? Well, no. Here's the thing. I'm still sticking to my original thing that we can't just gish gallop. A TigerShark, you do this a lot, where we find a source in one place and we throw it at the wall. We find a source from 200 AD, throw it at the wall. Find a source from 200 BC, throw it at the wall. Find a source from 700 BC, throw it at the wall. 800 AD, throw it at the wall, and then see whatever sticks and whatever falls. Who cares? This is particular. This is a particular verse of early Christianity. So I'm admitting in early Christianity there was some weird drug shit going on. Yes, we can talk about that, but let's be specific on which sources they're doing that. Marcus Magus, 100%, was an early Christian from the early second century, maybe the mid second century. But this is the beginning of Christianity. I don't care what we don't know anything about the first century. Nothing. We have nothing. This is the beginning of Christianity, and there's drugs and there's initiation. But we still got to be specific on the sources. That's all I'm trying to say is, yes, we got Marcus, and it's even a purple drug too. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the end of the chapter for myself.
Yeah.
Because this is the closest thing of all the examples that I have.
And this is why I always point to this one. If you want drugs in early Christianity, go right to Marcus, man. He's got it. He's the magus. But however, notice how Hippolytus does not like this. The reason why this is important, we can't just pretend all the... Now, you can say, I'm totally fine with this argument. Hippolytus represents a stage in Christianity, because Hippolytus is writing this around 200 AD.
Okay.
This is late.
Yeah.
Hippolytus represents a stage in Christianity in which they're sort of evolving out of the early Bacchic, whatever you want to call it, wild days. And they're trying to get out of that. They're trying to corporatize. They're trying to become what we see now in the church. I'm fine with that. Let's show that evolution. And you might be able to make a really good argument that way.
Yeah.
I just think,
valuable.
I'm making sense about like, be specific about the sources. One source in 200 AD doesn't have anything to do with a source from 500 BC. We can't just say, like TigerShark, you were in my chat yesterday, like throwing sources all over the place, dude. And it's like, great, you found a bunch of cool sources, but like, what do they have to do with each other?
Okay. So if you actually, I'm going to try to phrase myself a little better.
Yeah.
So when you had that, I guess it was that, what was it? The Dark Age conversation on Lev with that other guy. Mm-hmm. I think there were some things that were missed there. And yes, I'm throwing things at the wall, but it's to show that there were people that were positive about taking the substances in the trance state. The thing that the Christians were against were the worship of the goddess. That's what they were. They weren't against doing the drugs. So from 200 CE origin all the way through Pope John 21st, Peter of Hispania, they're all literally recommending the use of mandrake and other psychedelics. I mean, it's not that hard to see. We have he's saying take mandrake, henbane, opium, and rub it on your testicles so that you can extinguish all things of lust. Okay. He's right.
Yeah, but think about that though. What is that? It's saying he's trying to offer some sort of way of preventing you from having sex in that particular sense. You know what I mean?
Okay, stay with me now. Stay with me, okay? So we're getting into the division within the church itself. So who else does that? The other person that does that is Saint Hildegard. Saint Hildegard writes in her book Physica.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
very strange mandrakey culty thing of washing it in a stream, laying it next to you, sweating with it, and then taking it. So you have, but she also is saying that, hey, take this to quell the lust, right? But then you have others that are telling you to take it because it is good for fertility. So there's a couple here I can find that are actually claiming that. I'll have to go through my notes. I have a bunch of them up right now.
And I don't deny that you have like fertility.
But this comes out of the Egyptian stuff. So the Feast of Hathor, I don't know if you know this. You always talk about the island of Elephantine.
Yeah.
So on the island, there's the myth with the Feast of Hathor and how that came about. But basically, it came the people of Dandara, which is an ancient town in Egypt. The sun god Ra sent Hathor to Earth to slaughter all humanity. However, after seeing human devastation, the sun god saw the light, wanting to now save humanity. Ra ordered the brewing of mandrake-laced beer on the island of Elephantine. This beer was then mixed with the blood of the slain, as Hathor had an affinity for drinking blood. She drank the laced blood with the mandrake brew, and it mellowed her heart, and she stopped the slaughter of all humanity. So every year, in the history books, September 17th, the people of Dandar and other parts of Egypt would celebrate the drinking of the mandrake-laced beer to the saving of humanity. So this, you can't just look at the Greek didn't exist in a vacuum, right? Where did the drugs come from? We know opium and weed came from, right, Asia. They came over. Most of those, you talked about it with Mithras, right? Where did Mithras come from? That's originally, from the Eastern world coming back into the West. So with that, if they're incorporating the religions and these ideas, what else are they doing? They're incorporating these drugs into their system, right? And we know that in archaeology. So all I'm saying is that you have several groups of Christians using it through time, right? And they're telling you, this is why I'm using it. There's even a second, I don't know if you saw this one that I posted. There's a second CE source, a book written about how the fruit in the garden in Genesis was indeed the mandrake fruit itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this isn't just throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
But what do you mean? What does that have to do with any, I'm sorry, say that one more time, what you said about the mandrake, the second CE source?
So they're saying that Adam and Eve ate the fruit in the garden. They're saying that fruit was from the mandrake plant. I'm not saying that this is 100% what that is, right? I'm just saying that you have a lot of these early Christian sources and Greek sources and auxiliary sources that are also saying the same thing. So I don't think you and I nobody here is arguing whether they did drugs, right? But what we can look at in the text is that you had some of the church fathers saying, yes, we're against it, only use it to quell your lust. Then you had some actually using it. I don't know if you saw Thomas of Persane. I mean, he was using it for what he would call a ritual called eternal sleep. I mean, they were using it to have these divine. Have you ever read the Revelation of Magi in 8th century?
Yes,
Syria?
I have. I have a copy of it here. Yeah.
And what did you see in that, or what came out of that? Have you read what the scholars are saying in how they're interpreting?
There's some sort of a. It seems to be one of the sources that have what you're talking about.
Right. So the Magi, just like Jesus multiplied the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread, in the Revelation of the book Magi, and they're basically multiplying star food, and they're eating it, and all of these people. But now Second Ezra, I don't know if you know Second Ezra.
It's hard to tell though, and I haven't looked at that one in a while. It's hard to tell though if it's like they're taking it, like, are they? It seems to be more like a salvific ritual. You know what I mean?
They're eating something and they're having visions of Christ, and they're all converting to Christianity.
Yes.
So why is that? But No,
I'm not saying that you're not on. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that interpretation. I'm just saying, like, it's. I don't know.
But why is that? Why does that matter? Well, because we're getting into real drug stuff now, right? Second Ezra. What did they say in Second Ezra? The prophet is doing the drugs, and he's having visions, and he's having divine revelations. Cool, right? He's having prophecies. Well, what's the big difference between the 8th century Syriac text? The common people are eating it. It's not just the prophet now. So these are big changes that are happening in the Christian world. We can even see there's other Christian sects.
But here's the thing, though, and I'll let you pull that up. Can I show something on the screen real quick?
Yes.
Witch Doctor. All right. So this is from Clement of Alexandria. And hold that thought. I'm not trying to put a wrench in it. I'm not trying to stop what you're saying. Clement of Alexandria wrote this in like the late 2nd, and he's really doing a polemic against the sort of Bacchic, intoxicated sort of style of religion, where he says it right here. The word of God should be the pilot and the Holy Spirit, the anchor, the harbors in the heaven, the joys that are hidden away. And then he says right here, he says, I would pity him in his drunkenness and would appeal to him to return to this madness to sober salvation. Like there's this, and seeing that the Lord welcomes the repentance, and not resting on thy wand, not wreathed on ivy. Cast off the headdress, cast off the fawn skin. Return, come, and says right here, come thou frenzy-stricken one. He's basically reaching out to Bacchus and saying, return to soberness. I will show you the word and the word's mysteries, describing the according to thine own semblance. So there is, and I'm just trying to I'm trying to bring the nuance here and going, let's calm down a little bit, because not every Christianity isn't just one monolith. If we find Marcus the Magus doing all types of weird shit, yes, he's doing it. But then this is in the same century, and you have a totally different mentality towards getting drunk and sober. I mean, look at Islam. You can't even drink alcohol in Islam.
Yeah,
Christianity led to Islam. Islam is an offshoot of Christianity in Arabia.
But even in the Hadith, they're talking about taking Syrian rue for 40 days and 40 nights. And
Syrian rue is a psychedelic. But that's a very, very specific. And look, I bet you that's another thing about Islam. There's contradictions everywhere. In one passage, it says the Jews and the Christians will have salvation. Another passage says they're all going to hell. Like, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Okay, but hang on. And theogens doesn't always mean hallucination, right? Yeah. And actually, even what's his name? The skinny guy that does the drugs on Vice, what's his name? Hamilton.
Yeah.
That Ammon loves. He talks about it, and he's gone and done this with cultures that they were telling him, like, oh, you're going to take and eat this fish and you're going to trip balls and nothing happens, right? Or he licks the frog for the 5-MeO and nothing happens. He's like, I don't know.
Yes. That's common.
So part of this is just a cultural, societal thing where they think it's going to do that, and then they might drop on the floor even and go crazy, just like a Southern Baptist would, right? And they're like, take the Holy Spirit away from me, right? Just because that's a cultural thing that they're doing.
What I don't understand is what's with the anger towards me is, like you said yesterday, you guys aren't going to get the truth here. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to sit there all day and just show drug texts? Is that is that why you guys get mad at me for
different audience?
I acknowledge all.
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to people in the chat.
Okay. No, I didn't
That's
see the
what
chat.
I was thinking.
Here's what happened. I got a screenshot. I got a screenshot yesterday. Someone sent me a screenshot after I wasn't even looking at the chat, and they're like TigerShark was really fucking talking shit yesterday. I was like, what?
No.
And then they sent me a screenshot of you saying, you guys aren't going to get the truth here. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, we're talking about a totally different topic. I'm not even talking about
No. It was the people in the chat, because you have a lot of people in your chat that post a bunch of stuff, and then I post stuff, and then they go, well, that's not this, and this is
I thought you were like getting mad at me for you think I'm like preventing people from knowing about drugs, when
no,
in fact, I have dozens of videos on my channel.
No, you and I have talked about the drug thing before. We've looked at we looked at this stuff. I mean, it's not anything new to us, but I'm saying in this realm. So back to the Lev thing that you talked about. This is why it's important, in my opinion, from a cultural thing with the church. So there's church figures that have blamed the plants on the devil. Heinrich Kramer, Jacob Spranger, Gene Bowden over time, and they started saying all of that stuff is the work of the devil.
Yeah, Zoroastrianism. Real quick, let me just point out on that. Zoroastrianism and the Zenavesta attributes the use of drugs and pharmacon to Anger Manu as a witchcraft.
Yes,
so they're a very sober religion too.
Right. So you had, but again, so that's one group of fathers. And you had other church figures that said, no, these are obviously just psychoactive ointments. It's not the devil. Johann Nitter, Guzzo, and Nicholas Remy, who said this. And then you see
the nuance, though. You see how this is like, it's not one monolith.
It's never one thing, but it's always back and forth between them. And there's guys that even flip. I got examples of guys that flip. Alonso Tostado in 1460 flipped. He said he first claimed it was plants, and then that induced the transplant, and then later flipped and said that's the work of the devil. So you got guys that are in the church and so that's why you have all these different separations between this, right? And that's why it's important just to understand the context, because you could be right. You could say, hey, according to this guy, he's saying that there is no drugs. And then somebody comes on and goes, yeah, see, there's 3 guys right here that say it's just the work of the devil. Those are witches, right? It leads to Salem witch trials and things of that nature.
Yeah. It seems to be, in my opinion, and I think Ammon would disagree in his work, that he thinks like there's like a real drug ritual even happening probably today in the church. I don't know if he still thinks that. I think he like alluded to that in one of his books. But I would say that the people that won aren't the Marcus the magicians. The sober Clement of Alexandria types are the one who won out, and you get this boring corporate church that we see today.
Right.
And I'm just being honest. I don't want that.
There's actually a good quote that kind of goes in line with what you're saying. So it was kind of early on, 380 CE. Saint Milan said, "Why need I speak of opium, which has come to be used almost daily?" And he was talking about it, admonishing his own colleagues. Okay, so it was a problem early on, and then you had some of them speaking out against it. So I think you had some that just carried it forward, and they probably never had any backfire from anybody else, so they just kept doing it. And then you had ones that were like, whoa, let's get rid of it. So, that's all. I think that's all it means. But I think early on in the Christian record, I think we have a lot that shows they were actually indeed doing this.
Well, I think the reason why Marcus is such a big deal is how high up in the church he was, according to his enemies. The people that are writing against him are saying that he was succeeding Valentinus, who was like second in line for being the Bishop of Rome, the Pope. So we're talking, imagine if Marcus was alive today, he'd be like a cardinal in Rome. He'd be like that high up in the church. And he was ministering Eucharist to women with some sort of purple drug that was making them trip out and have some sort of vision. Now that's a big fucking deal. And people should be aware of that more than I think people should talk about that more often.
All of this is in the Bible. Even the porneia is in the Bible. There's a verse in there and mandrakes in the Bible, and the verses that talk about wormwood as being the judgment. They're literally saying that these things are being used in a divine way. So to say that it's detached from Christianity or Christianity has nothing to do with that would be just kind of silly. I don't really care if they're using it today. That's not my claim. We've had some people in the chat before on Wish Doctor getting mad at them, telling them that people need to be anointed with cannabis oil and mushroom oil. We've had a lot of weird people.
But you mentioned porneia in the Bible, and are you talking about Revelation?
Revelation, yeah.
Because that's another part that I would like to give the nuance. Is like, is it promoting the cup of porneia, or is it saying that the evil lady Babylon is taking it has the cup of in that particular case, it's demonizing it, right?
Right.
I don't know, because in Revelation 18, so that's in 17, but in 18 it says the double her cup. So I don't know.
Yeah, but she's the one who gets defeated. She's the one who represents Rome. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm not here to have eisegesis or exegesis in the what the text means, because we could go back and forth all day long, and then we just end up just.
It's basically talking about her sexual immorality as this lady Babylon. It's representing Rome as this figure that's going to be destroyed by God. So in that particular case, they're not saying the cup of porneia is like something that they promote or that they're doing. In that particular case, look at Rome and their evil cup of porneia. Yes. So I just think that's all.
Okay, but here's a good one for Ammon, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one. So one of the early ones that he pointed to from the Bible was the Borebites, the verses about the Borebites and Nicholas.
Oh yeah.
So why is that important? Because Nicholas is what he's named the 6th or 7th deacon, right? He's like the last one named. Well, that's pretty freaking early on in the church.
It's first century.
Right.
First century.
But to be named one of the first, and then you go and look at what they were doing, according to the Panarion and others, right?
They were doing weird, crazy fucking shit, dude. Yeah.
Right. So if that's true, then Ammon, that's one of the things that Ammon is right about, right? So
yes. But no scholars deny about the Nicolaitans. Now, some you get with Bard Ehrman might say, I don't even think these people really did all this stuff. They're just being slandered. And then others will say, well, maybe there's some truth in the middle. They probably were doing some weird shit. Maybe they exaggerated. Maybe they weren't eating babies. Because that's one of the things that Epiphanius says about them. They were eating babies.
That's what you say about your enemies when you want to create like a rift.
Everyone, Hillary Clinton eats babies.
Yeah. Another thing is you call them pedophiles, or you allude to them making safe spaces for pedophiles because you have no argument and you just want people to get torn down. Either whether you're doing it wittingly or not. I want to present something real quick, without getting into text. So because we go down fun rabbit holes, but so let's do a thought experiment. Imagine I told the story about the scorpion and the frog.
No. Is it from Aesop?
It might be, actually. I'm not really sure if it's, but so basically it's about a scorpion that tells a frog, hey, I'll help you across the river. And the frog goes, but you're a scorpion, you'll sting me. And he goes, no, I'm not going to sting you. I've been changed, or I don't do that anymore. I just want to help you across the river. So this basically, to sum it up quickly, the frog gets on the scorpion's back and they're going across the river, and then he stings him, right? And he goes, why the hell, you just told me you weren't going to sting me or whatever else? And he goes, I'm a scorpion, right? So there's a little bit more to it, but basically there's a evocation of teaching you that sometimes things are the way they are, right? And like if you've ever been around an actual sociopath, they're going to sting you, like whether they convince you that they're good or not. So I'm not here to like dive into there's probably a more in-depth and better interpretation of that evocation of that story. What I'm here to say though is, now imagine I told you that story was actually about two friends that were arguing over lunch money. And then fast forward 500 to 1,000 years later, we're all having debates about this frog and the scorpion were arguing over lunch money. And it's like someone's like, no, it's actually a parable. And it's like, oh, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. It's a parable like that. But then it's also confusing because before the scorpion met him, he was over here and contradicting. And so my point in that is like, the reason why all of this is so confusing, the reason why they have put these parables on top of this, I think is post-schism of cultic texts. The reason why they look exactly like the cultic texts of all of those other cults that I just mentioned, but don't look like anything else. Now, plot point wise, not the characters exactly, not the whatever else we're all influenced by, and they're reading Homeric Greek, right? So like, that's kind of my strong position. If you just look at the physics of it, that like, well, I like what you're saying though, where you're like, hey man, we need to dig into this stuff and look for the nuance and stuff. But there's also that point as is the reason why it's so confusing and obfuscated is because there's a complete layer.
What's that noise? I'm sorry. What's that? There's a loud noise going on. I could barely hear you, Chase.
Oh.
Someone's mic on the wrong side.
It might be.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cut you off. It was hard to hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's good. I think it's good now. It's good.
I need to get a microphone anyway.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
All right. Go ahead, Chase. Go ahead, Chase.
But yeah, so I guess I don't know if that's coming across clear or not, but when we talk about like, oh, well, this direction, this specific thing that Ammon is painting is either dead wrong or absolutely right or whatever else. But like, oh, but we got to find the nuance and the whatever else, and that maybe it is tied to these cult texts, or maybe it's not, or maybe parts of, or maybe whatever else. But it looks like every single other cult group: the initiation, the initiates, the meal prep,
you're not alone. You're not alone in that. There's a lot of scholars who've written about the Christianity being very closely akin to a lot of these mystery cults. Lit was written on this. I've done videos on this.
And so not even taken like it's so if you take it the literal point, that's like you're going to get to the Sam Harris argument. Is it literally true or not? I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, who cares about that?
What the cults, what the texts are evoking, and that these other cults were doing rituals, and that these plot points are so that you may have eyes to see and ears to hear, the Orphic Vox of communicating a ritual, just like a hero's journey communicates that. I mean, the hero's journey to me could be a lot of the times like it was universal with all these tribes. It was probably like psychedelic rituals they prepared their people for, and before they went out to become a man or something like that. Now, not always. It's also a universal thing that connects to us. We get to that point if we're virtuous and we're transformed by a point of no return, and we do things for, that virtue or something. So like that, sometimes I think that whole point is lost, and that the goalposts keep getting moved back to preserve like this fairy tale version and get in the way. And then like Ammon's a gadfly, like he says it at the start, you know what I mean? So when we start being like, well, this whole Jenga tower falls and stuff like that, it's like, I don't think it does. I think it opens up more. I don't think anybody's going to be exactly right, but if the position is that these are literal texts or they're just happy parables that contradict each other and don't make any sense, because why would like parables you forced on later to a plot point make any sense anyway? It's like either it's that or it's with the rest of the species, and there's a lot of knowledge and interesting things, and we're coming out of the dark ages still.
But you have to search for. I mean, the trails, the crumbs are there. You have to follow them and find the trail. So one of the ones that we talked about on Witch Doctor recently was the psychedelic fish, right? I don't know if you know about this Gnostic informant, right?
It's
So-
Apuleius talks about a psychedelic fish.
Right. There's a psychedelic fish, and there's a lot of people saying, well, the Romans did it, yada, yada, but there was not too much evidence for that actually happening. But if you look at the archaeology, that's same species that today is still there, and you can still trip balls on it. There's people reporting it, going to the hospital for it.
It's the algae they eat, right?
Yeah. So they found where they made the fish sauce, because fish sauce was being traded, quite frequently, all over the place. It was a good commodity. They found that particular fish, that particular species, next to the fish sauce. So it wasn't included into the fish sauce, but it was a different formulation that they were definitely using it back then. But this is old stuff. Not to tie it into the culty stuff. I was just looking to see if there was any legitimacy to those claims, because I heard it. One that I wanted to tie together, though, Gnostic, was this one to me, was awesome because it spans 15 centuries, a lot of years here. The 16th century book of Oberon. In order to see spirits, one had to use herba lucans, or the herb of light. Well, what does that mean? What is the herb of light? Because in many cases, like in Pliny the Elder and Natural History, they don't really tell us what some of these compounds are, right? But if we tie it back to 1st century Flavius Josephus, he writes, Mandrake sends out a certain ray of light. He continues to say, in the Antiquity of Jews, Mandrake drives away those called demons, which are none other than the spirits of the wicked. So if we go back to Mark 6:13, what do they say in Mark 6:13? What's happening there? The disciples are driving out demons from many and they heal the sick. So are they using an anointing oil infused with mandrake, like everybody else is at that time period? Or are they just some weird special, divine Power Rangers, healing people?
Okay, can I jump in? I want to make a point about like the style of text that we have, right? So sort of what you just did was you took a historical document and applied what you know from a historical document to an entirely fictional tale, right? Like the Bible is not a historical document. So what you have to do is look for the ethnobotanical like mythology that's involved. So you're looking if that I just want to clarify, like you did sort of make a mistake in your methodology there, and that's sort of what Neil kind of tried to explain to you before, is how you're taking all of these like valid historical documents and then applying that to a mythical document, where if that would be does that make any sense? Did everybody catch that?
What you're saying is you find a passage in Josephus, it talks about anointing with mandrake, and then
Yes.
and then is that you're basically saying what does that have to do with, like, I don't know, Christ
driving out demons? I mean,
no,
what is driving out demons?
Just hang on. No. Nobody in the Bible was actually casting out demons. There was people who wrote down that they were doing that. So there's symbolism, right? So what you did there is basically actually like anthropomorphize and
you're saying,
like
because you're taking the miracle away. You're saying this is all just naturally being done by magic with the use of drugs. But like the Gospels don't say that. The Gospels say that Jesus drove out demons just by his his miracle.
He literally says with the anointing oil.
Nature magic.
Just with magic.
But here's the thing: is that
literally with anointing oil.
Well, maybe it was mandrake oil.
Thing is that anointing oil probably has mandrake in it. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing: is that the anointing
I don't have a problem with that.
The anointing oil is an imaginary oil. It's a figurative oil. It's a symbolic oil. So there isn't an actual oil in the text that has mandrake. There's not a material mandrake oil associated with the symbolic text, right? It is a symbolic oil that in other places, that oil has similar symbolatry. In actual material rituals has mandrake, right? So what you need to do is, and I'm not, it sounds like I'm being nitpicky. It sounds like I'm being pedantic and all of that. But what I'm trying to do is actually drive home the point about how we take and adapt these things to different styles of text, right?
I agree with
you.
You.
Have historical documents, but the Bible is not a historical document.
Yes.
So the people that are in the Bible are not historical figures. They're figurative. They're symbolic figures.
They're called texts.
It's a cult text, and also,
Dude, CrossBible is all glitched out right now.
Sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, because I feel like
CrossBible right now.
Well, no.
It looks good to mine. On my
CrossBible's all glitched out. I can't scroll down. It keeps making me scroll back up.
Oh, same. I'm on CrossBible.com right now, Steve.
It's doing the same thing?
Yes. I'm at
Look
Matthew
at this. Let me share my screen real quick. Stephen, we got to fix this shit, dude.
He probably doesn't even know. He probably
watch. Look, I'm gonna try to scroll down.
Yep.
And it goes back up.
And it
goes up automatically.
Yeah.
The problem is the background is green. You change that to purple, that'll
it's probably firing some jobs.
Randy, I want to riff off of that real quick though. So I agree with you 100%. And even in the medical, if we're talking about the medical, and this is one thing that I have one of my big contentions with Ammon is actually this. He talks about this venom, this snake venom being this hallucinogenic. I don't buy that shit at all.
Provide me a source for that. I'd love to see that.
It's part of the death bringer. It's part of the whole thing is that one concoction.
But it doesn't even cause paralysis. If you look at the snake venom today, that there's actually studies on and research on. There's a guy on Vice that's been taking snake venom for 20 plus years. He doesn't have paralysis.
No, maybe and like emperors took it to protect themselves against getting poisoned. But the whole process of the death and resurrection isn't one specific drug. It's just like the Medea tale. If she has one part of her blood gives life, one resurrects. So they give you a drug that puts you into a state where you're probably going to die. Well, then they give you another drug that brings you back to life, which we can do right now with modern medicine.
I get that, but when we're talking about the gospel, like Mark, for example,
right?
Why would they leave a puzzle behind that nobody can see that they're actually taking this drug? Instead, he looks like he's being crucified, dies for 3 days, resurrects. That's just the plain reading of it. And Ammon's basically saying, no, actually, he didn't die from the crucifixion. He died because he took this drug, and then he took the antidote right at the last second from the,
I have a bigger contention with that. If they had the vinegar, he says they have the vinegar, and they're going to try to give it to him. So what's the point with the kid then? Why if they already have the vinever, what's the point of having the kid?
I think the point is that like he's saying it's all. Or at least what I get out of it. So I'm definitely not gonna speak for him. I don't know him or anything like that. But like you said, like he's saying that it's a puzzle there, and what it feels like he's saying is it wasn't a puzzle to people back then because we're reading the language wrong and we're looking at the history a little bit shaded from a Christianized history, from a Dark Ages history. When you start opening up the language and then comparing and contrast and putting these texts together, the puzzle starts to make more sense. Now, maybe we don't have the puzzle, all the pieces there, but like there are tons of mystery right cult texts of people being put to near death and being brought back. And in fact, if you were to take something like ayahuasca, like you could have a death and come back. Am I right, TigerShark?
Yeah, it feels feels like that when you take ayahuasca. But where's the
that's the cult text. Yeah.
Do we really though have a lot of texts about people taking drugs and dying and coming back? I don't know if I've seen a lot of that.
No, it's not. It's what Mandy's talking about. It's not literal. It's just like in the movie Tenet, right? It's just like so in the movie Tenet, those plot points he's a time traveler and whatever else, and it starts. But all the plot points are if you were brought into a drug ritual itself. Does that make sense, Mandy? Am I making sense to you?
Yeah. So, okay, if I can, I'm gonna take this opportunity to give everybody a really cool book recommendation. It's Eric goddamn, that's the guy who wrote the book Mimesis.
Great recommendation, dude.
Sorry. No. My brain wants to say Feuerbach, but it's Auerbach. It's Eric Auerbach. I was trying not to say Feuerbach because he's a German guy, but he was a philologist in the 1930s. And when the Nazi stuff happened, he left and went over to Turkey, and he wrote this book called Mimesis. And basically, what he does is he does comparative. He does what Dennis MacDonald does. Basically, one of the first examples in the first chapter that he gives is the one about what's her name recognizing Hercules because of the scar and how that has to do with the Bible. Right. So like Dennis gives that example all the time. That actually comes from Auerbach. He did that first. Really, really, really cool book.
Yeah, he probably cites him.
Yeah, he probably does all the time. I mean, it's a classic book. Everybody's read it. But one of the points that Auerbach makes in this is that This stuff has layers upon layers of mythology built upon layers. So once you basically my cult, my group, my dogs down in the chat, throw some Cerberus up. We call it Shreketi's onion, right? So essentially, when you peel one of the layers of the onion, you get to another layer of the onion. But that layer that you peeled and is on the ground, it physically made you cry. So you have an association and a physical reaction, right? So you get to another layer of the onion, and that's like going through another layer of life. And you're supposed to reflect on these rituals as you see, like, say your children go through them, right? Their rites of passages. You go, oh, I remember, and reflect upon how I felt about that rite of passage. And you're going through a different rite of passage as an adult, seeing your child go through a rite of passage, right? So there's this built in, when you talk about the time travel, it's not so much that you're traveling.
You did, but Ammon. Just want to tell the person on this. Go ahead.
We invited Ammon to this?
He ain't coming here with me and Steven here. That ain't happening.
I sent him an email for tonight. I've sent him an email.
Oh, he's live streaming, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
He's live streaming right now. I've got him on my monitor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You guys are making me miss my Lady Babylon live stream, man. That's right.
Yeah.
Ruined my Friday night.
Well, you just got everyone to leave then. Now from saying that. Thanks for.
So anyway, check out the book Mimesis by Auerbach. One of the things that he talks about is how these rituals through time, these mystery rites, they were family affairs, right? So the entire family was involved. You had your grandparents, whoever, your elders, they were going through a different rite of passage, seeing their children and their grandchildren go through these rites of passages, right? And it was, you had different rites of passage if you were a male or a female. So you had different ways of relating to, if you were a father, relating to your daughter or your son going through a rite of passage, right? So that's sort of when you see all of these characters who are essentially like Persephone, Hecate, these hyphenizations, right? What you're recognizing is that like this person's grandmother and this person, you're recognizing the mother maiden crone is kind of how Ruck puts it, where you have the different stages of life. And a lot of them have to do with feminine rituals and stuff. And a lot of those feminine rituals aren't the ones that are kept to time. A lot of the ones that were kept were the patriarchal rituals, right? So the feminine rituals are the ones that are really the mysterious ones that go way, way, way back to, anthropologically to, the mystery rites and to the cultivation of drugs originally for gynecological medicine. So when you're, well, that's sort of what I was saying is when you're tracing this stuff, if you're tracing the gynecological stuff, which, there's plenty of valid scholarship on that, but you're getting something different and fundamentally more material than if you're tracing the patriarchal side of the stuff, right? So, the Jesus male stuff, but if you focus on like the Mary figures, you're getting different things out of the text, right? And this is sort of why I defend post-structuralism is like what is your intent of what are you trying to get out of the text, right? What is it how are you relating to the text? Because that's why people wrote text and maintain these rituals, is so that you could personally get something out of them, right? So I fully come 100%. I don't care what the original author's intention was. You know what I mean? I don't care at all what the original author's intention was, because I'm the one with the book in my hand and I'm relating and reflecting upon all of the previous material that I've ever read. And I have that text and I'm relating to it, right? And it might be a text that I read 10 years ago and I was a different person and I had different experiences, and I can reflect on how, the book was different, multiple times around.
It's fine
but
to do
that. That's what
eisegesis rather than exegesis. You're reading into the text.
Exactly. And also I'm an artist. So I'm the type of person that looks at these texts for the purpose of creating, right? And that's one of the problems that's been plaguing philology as a branch of scholarship in academia, is the divide between philology as art and philology as science, right? Nietzsche talks about this in one of his first lectures, is how you can set up like a scientific structure about how language works and all that, and then find one example that throws a wrench in the works. So what Nietzsche recommended is that philologists actually try to inspire other artists to do original things with the text, right? But that's
not philology anymore. That's writing a new story, like Thus Spoke Zarathustra, for example.
That's exactly it.
That's
exactly it. And
there is not a divide between science and art. It's just real philology is a science, and then there's an art of writing new stories. It's two different things.
Well, no, because there's an art. There's an art of teaching the style of the text and all of that. That kind of takes a step back from the language necessarily, and you look at the style, and that's still philology, right? The difference in the style and how the words themselves relate from style to style, right? You relate to yourself and you relate to text differently when you examine them on the level of style.
Yeah,
so
but if you're doing philology, you're not gonna take your own personal reading and just say, I want it to be this.
Sorry, but just to clarify, we're talking about reading texts in a foreign language that you don't know and evaluating translations, or are we talking about reading like Dickens? Like, what are we talking about?
I mean, philology is basically just language. So when it comes to any language that you're studying, these principles apply, right?
And they apply to books that are written in your native language that you're reading, where there's no
translation. It applies to any language, right? That's just this is a truism about language and our human relationship to written language or performed language or sung language, is that when you're examining it on the level of style, you don't necessarily need to know the language that it's written in, right? So let's take like the example of like what's that band from France that performed at the Olympics, Gorgera or whatever the fuck, right? Yeah. They were performed in French, but I still knew that was awesome, powerful, metal music, right? Because I looked at it and related to it on the level of style, not on the language itself. It's what it invoked in me, right? That's different from doing philology as science, where you're looking at the words and like how frequently a word shows up in a thing, right? So
whole time you've been talking about style, I've been interpreting it in my English brain. Like you're speaking English and I'm not understanding you. I'm thinking style is like poetic style, prose. Like I'm thinking style the way most people describe it, but you're using it in a different sense.
Well, okay. Well, you have the base. You have form, mode, and genre, right? So style is, what that stuff does, not necessarily the language. It's the form, mode, and genre of the text. Does that make sense?
I mean, you'd have to define those terms. I don't know.
Form, mode, and genre. This is stuff that. I'm sorry.
Okay,
maybe I have to like read because I gotta shake my brain here.
Let me.
What exactly don't you understand about the words form, mode, and genre? Like form is like
if you're listening to something. If I'm listening to a performance of a Chinese opera,
yes.
I of course can get a sense of the musical style. I can get a sense of the rhythm. I can get a sense of just about everything except the meaning of what the words are actually saying, because I don't know Chinese, right? Like I can't get a sense of the register. I can't get a sense of like is it high literary Chinese or is it like low like common people Chinese? Like I have no idea. I'm completely in the dark unless I see a translation. And then it's a question of, is that translation accurate? Is it paraphrasing? So when we're
right. And what things do you expect to translate perfectly depending on the style, right? So depending on this, if it's a song, the artist has certain poetic license to do different things with the way that nouns work, or the way that certain endings and to make different things rhyme or to put things in different meter, right? That's different from a historical text where you're like a catalog, right? So you have to analyze it. You have to analyze if you're doing philology as science, you have to apply the style hermeneutics to your methodology. Otherwise, you're just you're doing what T.S. Eliot called squeezing lemons, right? You're just taking all the meaning out of the text and just looking at the squiggly lines and what the squiggly lines mean and how frequently the squiggly lines come up, and doing like mathematics, saying, okay, this squiggly line comes up 100 times, which means, this is the most common usage. And then you have, other percentages, right? But that's taking all of the meaning and the style and all of those things out of it. It's what, like I said, what T.S. Eliot calls squeezing lemons. right? And when you look at things on the level of style, you can take some of that stuff that's squeezed out by the scientist and try to use the lemon as a sponge and pull some life back into the lemon and go, this is a human phenomenon, not a language phenomenon. Language is secondary to style and to, you know, form and function and, you know, what it invokes, right?
It's technology, it's a medium. Yeah.
It's technology, it's a medium. Exactly.
A good example of that in the medical text is Hildegard, because she even says, like, in places where they can't get mandrake, they use beech tree. But what stays the same is the style of the ritual. Her ritual is the style that they're doing, but they're using different elements to do it.
Right. So, you know, that's one of the things about mimesis is the like substitution of things depending on what style you're performing in. So if you're trying to replicate something on like as stage play, you have to necessarily make certain substitutions because of the restrictions of the stage, right? So depending on the lighting, you know, something that, you know, would be an oral tradition that you're telling around the fire, where you have like a close-up, you know, kind of thing, that doesn't work on the stage. So you have to change certain things to make this you have to change certain things about the way that the what is being communicated looks like to the audience or sounds like to the audience or invokes because of the restrictions of the form that it's given in, right? So a play, you look at the text of a play differently than you look at the text of, you know, a medical text, right? Because they're fundamentally different forms, right? You can get to the level of style without knowing any single lick or like be able to translate a single squiggly line. You can do all of this philology as art. When you get into the technicality, that's when you get into the philology as science stuff. And I kind of get bored by it. You know what I mean? And that's because I'm an artist, right? So I look at it on that level. But, you know, there is philologists out there that say, like, you know, the form and the style, that's actually more important than like the technicality of the language, because we are inspiring people who are going on to make art and going on to make novel connections to the text that wouldn't be available if they were bogged down in technicality and bogged down in scientific methodology. And, you know, this is, like I said, this is stuff that goes back all the way to what the hell's that guy? I think his name was like Wolf or something in Germany. Nietzsche gave a lecture about it. So,
here's a
you know,
modern
I'm a Nietzschean, right, at heart. So, you know, I tend to, you know, I have a fundamental problem with language as a whole. I don't care about language as a whole. I actually think it's, you know, it's flawed. It's not a great way to, you know, it's the problem with a lot of human problems is language itself.
Our
you know
language
what I mean?
specifically, right? You know,
Well,
English.
yeah, I mean, our language in particular is
abstract.
very barbaric and abstract. It sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, the problem really just comes down to language itself. So if you just treat language as a category and not a single language as like a scientific study, you can actually get more out of this stuff as like an anthropological treatment of, you know, the text rather than, you know, a scientific, like how, you know, I think all of us can agree, like Bayes' theorem, you can't really apply that to history the way that certain PhDs do, right? So that's doing this like historical philologist stuff as science, and it's, you know, everybody who knows anything about history knows that's fundamentally flawed from the get. You can't use Bayes' theorem like that. Does that make any sense? I know I went on a diatribe, but, you know, does anything resonate with anybody that I just said?
I would tell me if I'm like adding on or not. So I think I understood most of what you said, and it makes a lot of sense to me. So I look at it like in the applicable phase. So like you're talking about, you know, that it's a medium and the evocation, and I get all of that, man. I show you a picture of a deer, abstract, random shot of a deer. Then I show you a random abstract shot at a different time of day, or not even the same location, of a hunter looking down a rifle. And then I show you the deer again, and then I show you the forest, and then I have a sound effect of a gunshot, and then birds scatter. What do we all feel happened? Why do we know that, right? We all universally, whatever language we speak, because it's speaking to us in an applicable way through like symbols, which language symbols. Go ahead.
So one more thing that I because you're a filmmaker and all that, stage instructions were not explicitly included in a lot of these texts, right? It's rare in a Greek stage play where you have, instructions for what the characters are doing, where they are on the stage, because that's the type of stuff that these this is what you did for a living, right? So like you knew you were the writer of the text was also of the play was also the person that was doing the stage instructions and doing the stagecraft, right? So we don't have a lot of that stuff that's maintained, and we only have the maintain of like the way the stagecraft worked in secondhand. Does that make any sense? Just I think that's an important thing to include. When we're looking at these documents, is that the stage instructions aren't explicit. So what they would do occasionally is like include puns and all of that, so that like you could have like
you can see it physically with a stage direction. I mean, if I say two people are in a room and we're in a vampire movie, right? And then the lights go out and or they have a flashlight, and one of them's like, "I'm not afraid of the dark." And then they grab a crucifix around their neck. What am I evoking inside of you as a viewer? You're afraid of the dark, no matter what you said or whatever else, right? So like stage direction adds so many different layers and communication. But what's like would be untrue is to say, she's actually talking about the galaxy next door to us, like just adding an abstract thing onto it. Am I down the right path with the stage directions there?
Yeah, exactly. Stage instructions and like stagecraft, that was actually a material like thing, like technology, like people, there were tried and true techniques of doing this, like the Deus Ex Machina, right? All sorts of people will tell you that, Jesus hovering above the people, that's classic Greek Deus Ex Machina, like, Aristophanes' clouds, like the whole time he's just floating around. It's Socrates floating around in the cloud, right? It's this like physical crane that would, be used for dramatic events, right? And then this dude Aristophanes goes and does what I did with the word dullard and overuses it and uses it as the main thing for his comedy. And so what he's doing is actually satirizing the concept of the stagecraft itself and taking, what is normally used as this dramatic moment and using it as like where everything starts, right?
What does this have to do with like translating text and arguing with text?
Well, so it does have to do with translating text because but the thing is that what this does is that it dictates which of those. So when you pull up a lexicon and it gives you 5, 6, 7, a dozen different contexts in which this particular translation applies, what you have to do is apply the style hermeneutics first to figure out which one of these applies, right? So you're doing it implicitly if you're only focusing on science, but if you have a solid grounding in the hermeneutics of style, you can actually circumvent a lot of the research, right? Does that make any sense? You can
It made no sense to me. I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so use an example.
We're translating a text. There's a science behind it. A verb can be given, or let's do like nouns. Is maybe more simpler. You have a noun, so you have the it has its it has a form. It'll have the definite article, ho logos, right? Ending with the omicron sigma. So it's nominative, singular, masculine. Boom. You cannot change that word. Does not mean anything else but masculine. The word or the it doesn't mean words. It doesn't mean anything else. Like there's nothing I can't change that into. I can say it's used in the context for reason. So I'm reading the sentence and maybe it's talking about, and he was saying logos. He was saying words, right? He was saying the word. That's it, right? But what if it's saying, and he was being very logos with it? Well, then he was being reasonable with it, right? That's it. But like, there's nothing. I have to stay within the bounds of like what this word means, the case it's in, the gender that it's in. I can't just like make it up what I want to be with it.
Yeah.
I can't just.
But it depends on. So if you're reading a poem, right? There are certain things that can be done with the form of the word to fit meter or in relation with other words.
Yeah, but now we're talking about meter though. Now we're talking.
No, but that's meter. So that's form, right? That's what I'm talking about with form and style. So depending on So okay, there's certain meters are appropriate for certain styles of poetry, right? Does that make sense? So if you're looking at a thing and you go, okay, this is, you know, such and such style of poetry, you go, okay, dot 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 dot.
Greek hexameter prose.
Sure, exactly, right. So you know what to expect. So if something is if something is not in that meter, you can then deduce, okay, well, you can identify what's going wrong because you've already done the style hermeneutics. You have to.
You can't change the meaning of the word, though.
Occasionally you can, depending on the style, right? So in certain contexts, you can have double entendres. It depends on the style. So in a historical document, you wouldn't expect double entendres, but in the context of a comedy,
no, you can get double entendres in a historical text.
Well, it depends on the style of the historical text. You know what I mean? Certain historical texts are written more in a.
I think it depends on the sentence that we're looking at. Every sentence depends on what's happening in the sentence that we're reading, or a paragraph, or whatever. The context of whatever it means. You know, the person naked? Is the person not naked? Is the person actively at a party? Is the word pharmacon present? Then we know is there something to do with drugs.
Let's put it into the language that all of us have in common, right? If you're looking at the way that a word is used in a song, right? So take the new Sabrina Carpenter album. She has a song called House Tour, right? The word house tour doesn't actually mean like, let me show you around my house, right? It's a metaphor. There's double entendre and stuff like that. But if you were looking at a catalog for, you know, say like a real estate listing or whatever, and it said house tour, you wouldn't expect to have sex with the real estate agent, right? Because they're using the exact same word in the different style. So the style actually dictates your interpretation and your translation, not necessarily the word itself or the squiggly lines, right? House tour means house tour.
You're talking about context, not style. You're talking about context.
It's context. The style critique is context, right? So the greater context, that's when you get into style. That when you're establishing context, you're not doing philology as science. You're doing philology. You're doing the style critique. Does that make any sense? You're doing it's.
I still think you're still doing philology with science, though. You're still breaking down what the word means based on the context of the paragraph.
But when you establish the context, that is doing philology. That is doing philology as art, right? You're establishing.
It's still a science behind that.
Well. Okay.
You're still being scientific and rational.
You guys give examples because it's very.
Please. Or Stephen, didn't you have something you want to say about this before?
Yeah, sorry. I'm rambling, but I think a lot of what I'm saying it does make sense. It's just I'm not putting it together, very well, because I totally did. I totally didn't expect. I didn't prepare any pre points or talking points for this.
I came prepared to talk about vaginas. That's really all I wanted to talk about tonight. Just so you guys
in what
are
context,
aware.
what style of vagina?
Kind of bongs.
Yeah. So like if I could show something on screen, I would love to, kind of get my rocks off here.
Get your rocks off talking about vaginas.
Yeah. So look, the thing in question here.
Get right to it. Let's get right to it.
So look, these are the highlights of this wonderful work in this wonderful chapter in toxicology and antiquity, right? Like, so the purple that I got here going on, right? In antiquity, entheogenic drugs administered in concert with sexual acts were considered an avenue for facilitating a sacred mystery union of an initiate and a divinity. And this union was considered a divine marriage, quote unquote, 16 footnote, boom. What's the footnote say? A good example of this ios rite, gamos means marriage, by the way, or sacred union can be found in Euripides' account of the union of Apollo and Creusa in Euripides Ion 887 and later. In this passage, Creusa inserts meadow saffron into her vagina. Like, okay, wow.
Let's go look at the passage now.
Hold on a second. That's only the first time he does it. Then he does it again here, where the root contained a liquid consumed for the pleasant feelings it conveyed. He's talking about colchicum right here. So sorry, I skipped a little bit. Medea's Ios was called Colchian fire, which is true, by the way. That checks out. There is a reference to the fire of Colchian Medea. He paraphrased, but that's fine, fair enough. And it was said to contain as a principal ingredient ephemeron, right? Ephemeron, or meadow saffron. Colchicum autumnale, called colchicon or colchicum by ancient physicians. This checks out. That's 55. That's all 100%, no contest, perfect. The root contained a liquid consumed for the pleasant feelings. So this is the root of the plant that I guess isn't caustic. It conveyed, and it was associated with the ritual sexual union of oracular priestesses with Delphic Apollo. Okay, 56. You go and you look again, same citation. Euripides Ion 887.
I'm pulling it up.
So, I have it up. I'm going to get to it. So Ion is an example of this child passed through fires. His mother Creusa again applied her colchicum, right? Meadow saffron, ephemeron, flowers of the meadow saffron directly to her vagina before engaging in intercourse with the god. And we know that that's the god Apollo, right? Ion, the product of divine union, her son, the son of Creusa, was dedicated to the temple of Apollo with serpents as guardians. And these serpents are members of a Draciana priesthood. Now, this really, like, you know, what I expect when I read something like this, unless I know that it's like satire, or it's playing, you know, some game here, I just expect to be able to go to Euripides and just find Creusa rubbing her vag with some meadow saffron, right? Like that's what it says.
That's what the citation says. Yeah.
Yeah. And so look, this is hard to read. Okay. This is from Loeb. People can go find this on Loeb. And, you know, maybe this is the translation by David Kovacs. I put it in I blew it up a little bit, right? But this is the text here. I just put it down here, right? So let's look at this. This is the invocation and reproach to Apollo, right? So Creusa is singing a song to Apollo in the play, right? We expect a song to Apollo to be praised, but then she turns it around and flips it and tells the story about how he raped her, right? So, oh, you that caused the voice of the seven-stringed lyre to resound, Apollo, right? He's the one who plays the lyre, which on the rustic, lifeless horn echoes forth the muses' lovely hymns to you, O son of Leto. By the light of day, I utter my reproach. And then here's where she flips it, right? Now she's going to start talking shit about Apollo. You came to me with your hair golden gleaming, as into the folds of my gown I was plucking flowers of saffron hue, collecting flowers. And then this part is maybe corrupt in the text, reflecting the golden light. These flowers are reflecting the golden light. Seizing me by my pale white wrists as I cried out, Mother, into the cave that was your bed, you took me, divine ravisher, without pity, doing what gladdens Cyprus's heart. I, unblessed, bore to you a son, whom, in fear of my mother, I cast upon your couch, where in sorrow upon a bed of sorrow, you yoked my wretched self. Me, and now he is gone, blah, 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 blah. So,
yeah, you don't have to read the whole thing.
So here's the thing. Like, I get that there are double entendres, and we're going to look at one. We're going to look at a double entendre that Euripides has, where he uses the word colpos in the plural, and there's a clear double entendre there. So I'm not clutching my pearls like how dare Hillman suggests that Euripides is referring to her rubbing colchicum on her vagina, but there is no colchicum here.
Not even close.
The word is crocea, and crocea is saffron. It's a completely different plant, first of all, right? Second of all, we have escolpus into the folds, pharisine. Now, pharos.
Now, this is the pharmacon thing.
Yeah.
The Christ pharmacon thing. What kind of colpos is it? It's a Pharisine colpos. It's a gown fold.
It's the folds of the gown.
It's so clear.
Can I make another super quick point? This is a stage play. Why would you expect somebody on stage to be putting flowers in their vagina?
There you go.
Exactly. So this is what I'm saying, right? So you apply basic style critique. Vaginas doesn't make sense in this context. You're not putting.
Well, it doesn't make sense in this context because the word Pharisine is there. That's it. It's full stop.
But also,
that's all you need.
But also, the actor isn't putting flowers in her vagina. She's putting flowers in the fold of her gown, like you see on stage.
That's what I just said. Pharisine. Pharisine means gown.
I know. I'm just saying, right? Like, there's no reason to disinterpret this as putting it in her vagina because in this context, if you ignored the word Pharisine, you can probably make it. You can try to say it's about her, because all you have is the word fold.
But guys, what about the sorry to interrupt. What about the argument that, look, I mean, this is ultimately just Stephen pretending he knows Greek, and Ammon, who we know knows Greek. Why wouldn't we trust Ammon over Stephen? And I'm just telling you guys, just insert the word vagina, read this text and just figure out how can she be shoving something into the vagina of her gown, right? Like it just doesn't fit. Now, I would like to show one other instance, right? Where,
but hold on a second. Go back to what you just said.
Yes.
I mean, is anyone going to acknowledge there's someone just straight up compulsively lying about this? Can we just acknowledge that?
Yes. No, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
They're opting for the pornographic edgy.
They want it to be cool because it's fun. Yeah, I get it. But
that's what I was
for a while. This philosophy take on Christianity and I'll let Steve continue, but it's been around for a while. Now it's not accurate really if you look at how they're, there's things about it that existed back then for sure. It's that caricature that he gets into that is the entertaining part of it for people that are writing off the Bible anyway.
Well,
so
one little point on that before Stephen continues. I don't know where Chase went. He probably went to go watch Ammon. That's fine.
Actually, he might be in the back room waiting. Hold on.
Okay, there he is. All right, there he is, Chase. Oh,
I've
fuck,
been trying to
I couldn't see you down there. Chase, last time we were talking, last time we were talking, you mentioned something that I stuck with me. I thought about it for a couple of days, and you said Ammon's interpretations, you might not agree with them, but at least he's like fighting back against the narrative that the church has been teaching us for these 2,000 years. And I thought about something I didn't think about on the spot there. Actually, and a lot of times, Ammon agrees with the church more than I do. And for example, the long ending of Mark. I went on Danny Jones to talk about the long ending of Mark. I went on Julian Dory to talk about the long ending of Mark. And Ammon is saying that I'm lying about this. And scholars, and he said this word for word. You're gonna hear this from Yale and Harvard scholars because they want to sell books. What was he meaning by that? He's saying that the long ending, scholars have been saying for hundreds of years now that the long ending of Mark does not exist in manuscripts before the 5th century, 400 AD. There is no manuscripts that we can find that have the last 11 verses in Mark. Now, why does Ammon want the long verse to be real? Why does Ammon agree with the church? Because there's drugs in that passage. So it has to be, Mark had to have written that passage because he just wants it to be. The funny part about it, the irony here is that Ammon is willing to agree with the church narrative just so he can have his cake and eat it too. So it's not, I'm not agreeing with the church. I'm actually being critical of the church, but sometimes Ammon's the one who agrees with the church.
When he says it's Greek first, I go, why? That book sucks.
The Old Testament. Yeah. All right, Stephen, go ahead. I cut you off.
On his live stream last night where he pulled out of this debate with Carrier, he did mention, actually, no, maybe it wasn't that last night. It was the one before that.
Carrier. He's cool.
Well, the thing is, he took issue with the accusation that what he put in this book was somehow flawed or incorrect, and he was like, "Look, this was peer reviewed. Like you think I could just put some BS past the editor? Clearly, he did." Even
Ruck and what's his name? Think this was atrocious. Well, Ruck has never invited him back on any of these projects ever again since this.
Yeah, well, in Wexler, I don't want to dock him, but I provided Neil a screenshot of my 2 emails that I got from the editor.
I have a confirmation by Ruck.
Yeah,
who really does not think Ammon. Listen to this. Think about this. Ammon has never had Ruck on his channel. Remember when he first opened up his channel? I don't know if you guys remember this. He kept saying he was going to get Ruck to come on as a special guest. Why didn't that happen?
He had Ruck on once. No, he didn't. No, he had Ruck on.
It was a recording. It was a fake interview from a recording from a different video that he spliced into a live stream. It was literally a fucking. It was I swear to God, go watch the video.
I just want to lay this out real quick.
Ruck never appeared on him.
Before, so all of the beef you're talking about, and you guys are, and he's fuck all, you guys all are fucking lying, all that. I'm not, I'm down to explore that. What I wanted to insert, because I was in the backstage when you guys were talking about the it's okay, you're good. The folds of the gown. So I hear a lot of people say Orphic Vox is not a thing. It's just made up. Now I want to present a thought experiment. If I'm going to using a technique called recycled object, I'm telling you a story about a girl And when she's young, she's carrying around this perfect flower. And then when she's a teenager, she goes through some relationships and some things, and maybe someone accosts her, maybe it doesn't. We don't know. I'm not writing the story right now. And that flower comes up again, except this time it's a little wilted, right?
Yeah, that makes sense what you're saying.
And then I show her when she's
not
40,
a virgin anymore.
And then I show her when she's 40, and that thing is dead. And then at the climax of the story, she finds a new flower, and it's a different type of flower. Now, does everybody here see the recycled object symbolism of what we're communicating of the character? That is Orphic Vox. And I think that is naturally what humans do with stories, and it's what we do with symbols and language, because language is not real. It is something we use to communicate and describe something that's happening. And the more applicable it is to nature, the more true it becomes, like when water boils at 200 degrees or something like that. So what is the Orphic Vox? It seems to be a set of codes that certain cult texts all wrote in, but we don't really know what it is because the church destroyed most of them.
Well, that's Orphic
no one
Vox.
wants to, like, even touch, like,
just to clarify what I mean when I say Orphic Vox did not exist in antiquity. The phrase Orphic Vox in Latin was never a thing in any of the Latin poets.
So the phrase, gotcha.
Orphic Vox is a concept by later Renaissance Neoplatonists, referring back to a concept of the voice of it could mean any voice of prophecy.
Orphic Vox is a mouth noise we use to describe the process that's happening all the time. That's what I'm describing.
Yeah, it's a concept. It's a real concept, but it's like
we
entheogen.
essentially know what it is. So
it's
we
like
have all these
entheogen.
texts that are super important, and they're at the foundation of civilization, and they supposedly carry all these moralities or carry these stories of their ancestors that came before. If they supposedly are people that invented harmonies, that started with art and created civilization, all these things, why would these stories be about these magical people living in Olympus? And then that's it. That's what these people believed. I mean, like, it's so absurd to me, though, that we get so technically wrapped up in like the nuances of words, and then see that doesn't translate exactly like that. So that's just all a lie.
But Chase, sorry, TigerShark.
Yeah,
Chase, is that does that indemnify or justify what we find on these 2 pages? We have 2 citations of this specific verse making all of these claims that we're talking about a gamos, sacred union, a wedding, when we're actually talking about a rape. That Creusa inserts metosaffron, not saffron, metosaffron, ephemeron, a different plant, into her vagina that's supposed to cause it to burn. And that in that Ion, her son, is quote unquote child passed through fires. We just looked at that text. It's not doesn't say that. The implication here is that because she's rubbing metosaffron, colchicum, or ephemeron, those are all names for the same plant. Because she's rubbing that on her vagina, it's burning it up, right? So that when Apollo, I'm reading into this, right? So then when Apollo rapes her and she gives birth to Ion, because her vagina is all lubed up with this very, very toxic thing, that he's the child passed through the fires. I get it, but the problem is that, like, you go down to the text and it's just like, okay, the vagina of her gown. I mean, she's like, I just don't.
He's adding one thing. He's reading into one thing, and then based on that thing that he added, he gets to add another thing, and then based on that, he gets to add a third thing, and then you have the whole web of things that don't exist.
So say we're in the debate about this, and I go, you know what? Like, I'm gonna side with. I think you're right. The problem, though, that I have with it is, I don't know the content. I don't know the entire story and what that story is meant to evoke. I don't know what that culture, what that story, why it's passed down and stuff like that, right? So if I'm taking out one specific scene and then trying to scientifically identify just exactly what's happening, I'm kind of missing the whole.
That's what Ammon wants. That's what Ammon wants.
Okay,
he wants people like you who don't know what who don't understand it, and then he can feed you bullshit, and you're just going to go.
But you can read the whole play.
I don't walk around telling people this is exactly what happened.
Chase, I just sent you a piece of writing from Carl Ruck, like giving like super in-depth background knowledge about the Ion story, and he specifically says that it's folds in her garment in this particular thing. I sent it to Neil too.
Yeah, and it could be, and it totally.
But the thing is that it gives it what. So this is a good example of like Ruck doing very good scholarship, where Ammon's doing very bad scholarship, where Ruck properly applies the stylistic critique to his philology, where Ammon abandons style altogether and just goes, this word means this, it means vagina, boom. So
I do have more vaginas, by the way, just in case.
Yeah, there's more vaginas. Yeah. Also, sorry, Stephen, did I?
Okay.
Let's let Stephen continue, and then we'll go.
Stephen, keep going, man.
Okay, so basically, the predecessor, the archetype for that particular story that we were reading about Creusa. I don't know if this. Okay, let's keep it this zoom. That archetype. Actually, let me do a slideshow. So if you look at the Homeric hymns, can you guys see? Hold on, it's loading. My browser's slow. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I guess it's the same thing. Okay, so in the story of the rape of Persephone Cori, the daughter of Demeter, we have this really interesting text where you can see, and this is very poetic, right? Like with deep bosomed daughters of Ocean, right? Okeanos. Picked flowers. These are the same words that we find in Euripides, right? Anthea, flowers. Across the soft meadow, roses and saffron, same thing, krokon. But now it's not saffron colored, it's actually saffron. Again, not colchicum, not meadow saffron. So clearly, or at least like I would infer, that Euripides is definitely like harping on this theme, right? And again, you have colpos, right? Like, are we going to assume that that the Homeric hymn is talking about the deep vaginaed daughters of Cori? This isn't talking about Cori's vagina. I don't know what it means, actually, to be honest. Like, I think deep bosomed, I think it means she has big breasts, right? Yep. Like maybe it's her cleavage. And just so we're clear, what colpos means is it just means like a concave shape. Like it can refer to a harbor. It can refer to your lap. It can refer to your bosom. It can refer to this curvature of your body, so that when you have your child in your bosom, right? In English, when we hear bosom, we think chest. The Greeks didn't think that. They thought of just sort of being in the bosom. Jesus is described as having a bosom, right? Yeah. And so here, I just wanted to point out that this is sort of the archetype, the predecessor, the theme, the trope that Euripides is playing on, where a woman is gathering flowers, not vaginal application. She's gathering flowers, and then she gets abducted and raped, right? It happened to Persephone, and it happens to Creusa. Yes.
So I don't read Greek, and I don't pretend to, but from the things that I've heard, like, certain words, like the word for handsome, right, in ancient Greek now means good. Yes. And I know that's kind of like the defense that a lot of the Ammonites take, right? Is they say, well, that's not ancient Greek. Stephen only knows modern Greek, so it's not the same.
Which isn't true, by the way.
Yeah. Stephen knows that's what I'm asking. That's the question. Is like how much of that applies and how much does
when we were in Greece, this is Greek. Stephen kept doing this. There'd be a sign on the wall that said that was in modern Greek, and Stephen would go, if that was ancient Greek, what would it say? He would quiz me, and I would have to like break that. And he knows the difference between ancient and modern, and what the difference. He did it like 100 times when we were there. His brain, he knows the difference between the case forms of modern Greek versus ancient Greek. So the idea that Ammon keeps saying that he only knows modern Greek is just all it is gaslighting you guys.
Yeah, no.
So you don't listen to him.
I have another great example though, with a real vagina. If you guys want to see it,
let's do it.
Real vagina.
Yeah, real vagina. So okay, and save your thought. So here we have Euripides, same author, right? Euripides is not a prude, right? I'm not saying that this doesn't mean vagina because I'm clutching my pearls and saying, well, no, Euripides would never refer to a vagina, right? Like that's not the case. Look at this dramatic fragment about Danae. So he named this daughter Danae because a great time had passed before the birth of his child. He at once gave her to Argive girls to guard safely in maidens' quarters, which he built, taking care that she should not come into a man's sight. Then, after the long passage of time to her adulthood and possession of a beauty beyond all others in Greece, Father Zeus was seized by her irresistible charms and wished somehow to lie secretly with her. Having no way to persuade her openly, he turned to the following means. He changed himself into unfired gold dust, knowing that this is a possession desired by men, so as to pour through the roof into the girl's arms. not perceiving the hidden trick, Danae welcomed the god in her embrace as he pours in. Now, I would go out on a limb here. First of all, what this translator is doing is he's taking kolpoi, right? He's taking that word that we've been discussing. He's putting it as embrace. That's a euphemism, right? Now, it could conceivably be, at least in the mind of the reader, like that she's embracing him. But what we have here is isreiond. He's pouring in to her. So here I would say very much so, not definitively, but there definitely could be a double entendre here, where in this context it works perfectly, where Euripides is playing on that word and she's taken him in and he's flowing into her colpos, and it's in the plural. This checks all of the boxes.
Yes.
And
this is what I've been trying to say. You have to read the context of this paragraph to understand if you're going to be able to translate it the way you want to translate it.
Okay, another question.
We're all saying the exact same thing like a dozen different ways. Like we're giving the exact
but it's
same
not style. It's not style though. It's just the context of what's going on.
But what you just did is style critique, right? You're examining the style and examining the tropes and examining the ways that you would expect these words to be used. You would expect.
It's still scientific though. It's
she got pregnant,
there's
like
nothing,
right
there's
away.
Nothing unscientific about that though. It's still a very scientific process that you're still doing.
No, but so okay.
You're not abandoning. It's not one versus one scientific and one's not. You're still, even if I translated this as vagina, I'm doing it. I'm being scientific and rational for that translation.
No. Okay. So there's something that's TigerShark. Real quick. Make a point. What's going on simultaneously is two different actions, right? You have style critique, where you go and you figure out what style, therefore what things are applicable.
What do you mean by style? It's just the context.
Well, that's what the context is. Style. I mean, if you want me to just say context instead of style, I'll use that word because it means the same thing. What I'm trying to get across, right? The context is how you dictate which words are appropriate.
Yes.
Right. Okay. How
is that not scientific though?
No. So because you're doing a critique where you're going through and figuring out that. Right. That is the critique is art. That's not science.
What are you talking about? What do you mean? There's no critique. I'm reading the sentence and I'm going based on the context. Hold on. Based on the context of this sentence where it says there's a god or a woman receiving the goddess in her colpos as he poured in. I'm looking at that and I'm being rational and science. I'm not abandoning science.
We're saying the exact same thing. What you're doing.
No, we're not.
Initially. What you're doing initially is a style critique to determine what is applicable for your science, right? So the style critique is how you select the tool, right? So do you need a microscope for this, or do you need a megascope?
But what do you mean by one of them's philology using science, the other one's philology using style, or whatever you said before?
Okay,
we're still doing philology this is still a correct translation based on the context.
No, I understand, but the determination of the context is the art of philology. What Stephen is doing now is the science of philology, right? They're being done simultaneously and not separated. They're not being explicitly separated or saying this is when we're doing the art critique to determine the context.
But I'm not down the author. There's no death of the author here. The author probably could have meant this. Most likely meant this actually.
So the death of the author is in the style critique, right? When you go and you determine what style this was written in, the author may have had in his mind a different style, but because of all of the context of style before and after him, we use that to determine. So in his mind, he may have, right? You may be thinking you're writing a love song, and it turns into I'm sorry, I'm going on, but what I'm trying to say is that there are two things that are going on simultaneously that are not being differentiated. Is you are using you are doing art when you are determining the context.
How? What art am I doing? I'm being rational. I'm looking at the word. In fact, that word is in what form? I'm guessing that's the singular. What is it?
No,
OC?
plural.
Plural. Oh, it is plural. So it's
There's
dative plural.
But you're
Dative
doing,
plural.
but,
There you go.
So there's dative plural.
but-
Hold on, let me show you. Let me show you this. It's the dative plural, colpoisi, dative plural, which means to or for her bosom. Dative plural, feminine.
Here, I think it's more instrumental, so it's actually like kind of with her, with
okay,
her
fine.
bosom.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
That what was artistic about that? I'm using basic pronouns,
no.
basic formology.
You are in the science process right now. But before that, you determine that this is a stage play. This is you're determining what it's not artistic, right?
Though.
No. That is artistic. That is art.
How?
What you were doing is when you
I'm
were determining.
being very rational about this. I'm looking at the
There's no
context
reason.
of the sentence.
No.
I didn't abandon science.
No. So just because something isn't, just because you're using rationality doesn't mean it's not art, right? The science. Okay, fuck. How do I?
I'm not taking any artistic.
No.
I'm not changing what the author did here. I'm translating it.
No. Neil, I'm not accusing you of anything. What I'm saying is that
I'm not saying that. I'm not making. You're not making sense to me. That's all I'm saying.
I understand that I'm not making sense to you because this is something that we do implicitly in our minds. The determination of genre, right? The determination of style, the determination of the form, that dictates things that we do not apply to this, right? That is an artistic process, not a scientific process.
Why? I keep asking. Why is that not scientific? Is there
So
any other? Hold on.
No.
Steve,
So
Mandy,
Neil, maybe
is there
maybe
any other way? Is there any other form that this word is in other than dative plural? Yes or no? Is there? Can I artistically say that
Neo prototype is in the chat is saying that it's Homeric genitive. I don't believe that's true.
Homeric genitive?
That's what he's saying in the chat. I just thought I would.
What is Homeric genitive?
I don't. Homeric genitive would be like oyo. That's a Homeric genitive singular.
Yeah, it's got the sigma.
There is such a thing as a.
Okay.
Yeah, this is attic plural.
But it's got a
attic
sigma there, so we're gonna have to assume it's not even Homeric anymore. We're in the Hellenistic period, so we're gonna use the rules of the sigma augment, right? The si at the end.
It's just the dative ending. It's not a
it's a dative. Okay, so okay, maybe let's go with what was the guy's name in the chat?
The neo prototype was
okay. We have two options here. Either neo prototype is right, that there's some ancient Homeric style genitive. Maybe he's right. I don't know. I'm just looking at this on the tip.
I mean, I looked it up just to see is he right.
We have two. Mandy, do we have any other options here other than the genitive or the dative? Can I artistically say this is actually nominative or accusative? Can I do that?
No, because you've already done the art of determining.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Determining the context is the art, Neil.
How?
So
is 1 + 1 2 or 4?
No, but here's the thing.
Did I do art when I said 1 + 1 is 2?
No. Our numbers real is the art, right? And then you do the science. Does that make any sense?
Am I tripping balls right now?
No, Neil. I mean, I know that this doesn't seem like it makes sense, but when you are, what I'm saying, okay.
Either we're doing art or we're doing philology.
No. Philology is simultaneously art and science, right? When you are determining the context of something, you are doing art, right? When you are then going in and based on that,
are you saying it's not science anymore?
Science.
Are you saying it's not scientific?
No. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that it is simultaneously art and science. And when you are taking,
before you said there's a divide in philology between philology by science and philology by art.
It is the difference is what is it that you focus on? Is it the focus is the artistic determination of and studying of the context and the style, right? And how people use the art and the art changed, or you go in and you focus on the nuance of the language and the language form and all of that you guys are doing. They're two different things that are happening simultaneously. And when you get into like the focus of genre form and style and context and all of those, you're doing hermeneutics, and hermeneutics is an art. When you are going in and doing all the things that you are doing, that is science, right? So hermeneutics is if determining context, right? You can call that hermeneutics. That is art. You are doing.
I don't understand how that's art at all.
Hermeneutics is an art. Hermeneutics isn't a science. Hermeneutics is art. right? That is how you determine.
Yeah, but I'm not
all
talking
the things
about
that.
I'm not talking about the art of hermeneutics. I'm talking about translating a text and determining when I'm determining the context of the Greek, and I'm going, okay, what's going on here? I have a god, and he's entering this woman, and he's using the term. What's being entered is her culpos. Okay, what could that possibly mean? Well, it seems like pretty a sexual situation here. That is a very rational thing that I'm doing. I'm not taking any artistic approach here. I'm just going, what does this mean? I'm trying to be rational. I'm trying to come up with the most applicable translation for this word. Completely rational,
right. So,
scientific.
Well, here's the thing: is that just because it's rational doesn't mean it's not artistic, right? The hermeneutics can be perfectly.
Mandy, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, Mandy? So if I were to pull that, like if you were my Greek student, right, and I pulled that out of the context and just gave you a test, like 1 through 10, fill in the blank, like, you know, how would you translate this? And I gave you the Greek with that blank on the other side, and it says like, the god came into her like culpos, and then the blank, figure out what it means. And then she got pregnant right away. And then I asked you, like, fill in how would you translate this? Like, open up LSJ, look at all the different meanings.
Okay.
Would that take the art out of it if it was just a question and a test? Like, you have no context. You don't know if it's a play. You don't know what the style it is. You don't know who the author was or when it was written or what dialect it's in. It's just Stephen gave you a problem to solve in a language learning environment.
Yeah, that's not so. In a language learning environment, you're doing pedagogy. You're not doing science, right?
But what are you doing as a student when I want you to fill in the blank with one of the four?
So as a student, I'm not making art. I'm not doing science. I'm learning. Those are two different things, right? So we're talking about when you are if you're a person that's participating in the writing process and all of that, when you are going and looking at how other people wrote, you are using
Witch Doctor, can you pull the example back up, just because this is why I put it together?
I'm saying is that,
so if I just asked you to complete the sentence on the English,
you're not doing hermeneutics when you're asking me to translate what these squiggly lines what the words what the word equivalents are. That's not hermeneutics, right? You're not asking me to interpret and to determine, what the cultural meaning of this is.
No, what if this was your assignment though? If I assigned this to you, you don't know who wrote it, you don't know when it was written, you don't know it's a play, you don't know the style, you don't know any of that stuff, but you just need to pick one of the 4 possible meanings of this word. And like, say this would be an advanced Greek lesson. Like, what are you doing when you solve that problem?
Learning.
Okay, but when you do it here, it's a completely fundamentally different process.
No. Okay, so look, so educating is different than doing academic research, right? Or publishing books, or doing academic like progressing human thought or anything like that, right? When it comes to philology as teaching, right? You're teaching philology. You're not doing philology. Does that make sense? You are teaching how to do philology. You're teaching you're teaching people. That's fundamentally different than doing the philology. So when you critiquing, so it would be like critiquing somebody's techniques on how to teach versus somebody's translation. Those are two different things, right? When you're teaching somebody, you have different techniques and ways to elicit, conversation and all of that, and different expectations. So it gets back to style, right? Fundamentally a different style. Teaching is a different style than writing books for, an academic and trying to progress thought or to make original interpretations, right? Does that make any sense? So you
keep flipping it to teaching, and I'm talking about solving a problem, which is the responsibility of a student. So if you're a student in my Greek class and I'm telling you, fill in the blank here, what is the correct translation of this? Are you going to put bosom? Are you going to put folds? Or are you going to put vagina? Like, you have those options, right? Like, look at LSJ, those are your options. Right. Which is the most likely correct one? Is it the bosom of my gown?
In that context, I'm not doing something like writing a peer-reviewed academic paper, making an argument about how this could potentially mean this based off of, research and such. right? Or based off of this artistic interpretation. That's the context of a teacher to a student, right? That's not the context of a professional philologist or an artist interpreting and using it for whatever their means are, right? Does that make any sense? So there's differences in like theory of pedagogy. Where is it? Do you focus on how to do hermeneutics and how to focus on the art, and then the technicality follows, or do you focus on the technicality and then the hermeneutics second? That's what I'm saying. Is there's this divide, right? Hermeneutics is the art of doing philology. What you were doing is the science of doing philology. So which of those takes precedent and do you prioritize as a teacher, right, or as an expert? Are you an expert?
Okay, sorry, not as a teacher, as a student who has been tasked by the teacher to fill in the blank here.
Yes, and that's also a different context than a professional who is proposing or speculating about a potential translation. Those are different contexts, right?
Okay.
Actually,
no. I think if I asked you to translate this word as my Greek student, you would be tasked with the exact same. You would have the exact same task as David Kovacs.
Not necessarily. So this is a translation, not an interpretation. Do you see what the difference is? Interpretation is the art. All right, that is when you're doing the hermeneutics in your interpretation. The translation is a different fundamental skill set, right? We're talking about different skill sets.
Involves interpretation.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. The interpretation is art. Translation is science. Okay. Yep. Interpretation is all of the context establishment, right? The genre, the form, the style, the mode, all of those things that it can be just a thought, boom, done. It's a play, boom. And you don't have to do anything more than that. But it can also be like, let's go and dig deep into how this stuff works and all of that, right? Does that make any sense? I know that it sounds like I'm rambling and I'm not making sense, but you do this implicitly.
I'll agree to disagree for now. That's fine.
But you do this implicitly, right? You do this when you listen to a song in your own language. You do this. This is a human phenomenon, right? Where you're determining how to.
All right, we got it.
All right.
This is a way. This goes way back, right? I'll send you Nietzsche's first lecture. He explains it about how this works with Homer and all that stuff. So
I've read Nietzsche's first. I've read all that stuff. I'm not sure he's ever
I'll send it to you again. He goes in deep with the difference between focusing and prioritizing the art of philology or the science of philology. Right. I'll send it to you, man. I have no reason to bullshit you, dude. Like, this is what Nietzsche said. And people have been arguing about this and, what is the priority?
Yeah. Okay. So let me, sorry, I want Chase to speak and then I just have to say
something. I can pull this up out of this.
Right. Go. You go, so I don't interrupt you.
Okay. Let's that was a small little rabbit hole went down. So I want to I'm going to present a new position. It'll be my position of how I feel about what has been opened up from the last 3 years. Like, again, I've told the story. I'm working construction. I'm writing a story, create a story about this crazy God that's in a person. Then I'm like, I want to learn more about gods. Find this guy, Gnostic Informant. I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. And I'm going down that rabbit hole. And then I go down Lady Babylon's rabbit hole. And then I go down other channel rabbit holes because I want to learn more and more. So as far as what I've gotten off of the Lady Babylon trail, which is also parallel to Neil's, I think, at the beginning. And I wrote this down yesterday so I wouldn't I'd be able to stay focused. So from my perspective, this is just opinion, all this stuff I'm getting ready to say, but I want to see what it evokes inside of you guys and what you feel about it. And also, what does that mean for you as if you oppose it or whatever else. So from my perspective, there's no religions whose plot points of miracles, discipleship, teaching, death, rebirth, transformation do not evoke the picture of a cult rite. Sacred meals, initiation formulas, ecstatic drug use, sexuality, fertility, symbolism. And then that's collected in all the cults I listed at the beginning. So all the mystery religions, basically, they have the same plot points. So they're not exactly the same in their semantic details, right? But
sure.
And they're also being mimetically, working with each other. So to write these plot points with any other in any other way would be analogous to writing a horror movie where no one is ever scared or has a fear they have to face, or a romance where no one falls in love. Like, it wouldn't read as the thing it's supposed to be and invoke inside of people, which is exactly why I think faith-based films do not connect on a universal level and accept only connect to their true believer disciples. So the Gospels without initiation logic are like the hero's journey with the hero refusing the call or never even getting the call to begin with, never facing a trial, and then just sitting around talking and hanging out with friends and saying cool stuff. So imagine someone try to explain the movie The Exorcist to you as a really nice family drama with a girl who's just a little under the weather. Sacred stories functioned as initiation scripts for me. Death, rebirth, meals, discipleship weren't random like choices or literary like bells and whistles. They were the physics of the transformation in narrative form. So it's like there is no, let's see. Oh, oh yeah, it's like explaining what gravity is, right? If you're not explaining the applicable position on something, then there's nothing to be gained. And why would these stories be passed down? Evolution would just swallow them up, right? The more dysfunctional your language and the more abstract, which we might be seeing in the modern world right now, the more in our heads are, the more disconnected we are from nature, which means we fail to deal with the challenges that are coming. And I see that paralleled in the dysfunctional modern Christianity, parables and fairy tales, because it has made its followers, in my opinion, more prone to flat earth, saying evolution is fake, there's mansions in the sky waiting for him, greed is good because God chose you, genocide is necessary for those demon evil people, you're separate, stay separate from nature, that's scary, women, woo, gotta control them, sex, that's real bad. Submission is definitely required. Diversity is definitely destruction because you don't want anybody else being not like you. A static identity is confused with growth instead of transformation. Thinking and speaking are the same as acting and earning. And that the thoughts and prayers are going to do something. That there's nothing wrong with, a billionaire having a beauty pageant full of kids. That's just like pretty cool. Now he's president. Anyway, so sorry, that was a little stab at everybody. My bad. So it's for me, it's as above, so below. And so if these things are passed down, this is really important. And if you have something that has abstract language and that you've told people that language is reality and that you can define it for them, as opposed to like an applicable nature about it, you end up with confusion and schism. You end up with external salvation. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to read all that. You end up with demonization of rivals. You end up with historical fundamentalism and literalism, and then you end up with political capture. So endless quarrels. Salvation comes from the outside instead of the inside. You have clerical monopolies that will hold on to the education, which causes extinction because it doesn't allow future generations to grow and experiencing things. And it's like a fairy tale that's hollow on the inside when you read it, which is just like a modern faith-based Christian film for me. No offense to some of them that are pretty decent, because I love films that have good Christian characters. They're awesome, right? But they're in a world where they're going through stuff as a Christian, and that's part of the struggles inside of them, as opposed to the external world is Christian in some kind of absolute way, which is exactly how modern Christianity seems to be taught to me. So propaganda becomes reality. And so like when we're looking at all of this stuff and we're looking at Ammon, I love that you guys go into those details and you go like, hey, he might be wrong in the semantic thing here. Or he might be like, there might be something else.
Or he's definitely wrong.
And that's fine. But I don't therefore say everything that he's opened up is not true. I don't therefore say the Bible scholars have any merit at this point, because they do not. All right. Like, there is no way in hell that there were no drugs in antiquity. We've shown it all around the globe in all of these tribes. There's no way in hell the physiology of the body doesn't work like that. It's in the science that we look at every day. It's happening right in front of us. Right. So to take the stance that he's wrong about stuff, for sure, like that could be totally correct.
If you caught me on the stream saying something that was really manifestly false, or you maybe later discovered that I just totally lied about something, like, doesn't that lower my my reliability? Like, you aren't going to trust me later to be authoritative about anything if it caught me in a bold-faced lie.
In an absolute way, absolutely not. But I never take, I try not to take it, anybody that says they're absolutely right about anything that sounds really foolish, because I know I'm stupid, but I want to see the picture you're painting. Like, so if you are falsifying something, what are you trying to communicate? What picture are you painting to me with that falsification? Is it to get my money? Is it to do this? Is it to do whatever else? That's the picture I want to see you paint, because all writers are liars, man. And all of us are communicating. We're in little black boxes in our head, and we're using symbols and mouth noises to try to figure out each other out. We have our body language and all these other things. It's a confusing thing to be a human. So when I see what he's evoking, it opens up a reality that makes complete sense and maps on to physiology and the history that's been hidden and whatever else. So to say he's wrong about the specifics, I can get on board with that. I could be like, cool, yeah, those specifics are a thing. But him being wrong about a few specifics, for me, in no way discredits the entire picture. Like it's a bear trap you step in when you try to say you use that word wrong. And then what are you implying, which no one seems to take a picture?
Okay,
are you implying that the Bible is just parables? Are you implying that these are not cultic texts that are not related to any of these other cults? Are you implying that it's all just made up?
Okay, so put yourself in my shoes as somebody who checked these. Like I read this chapter, and what I'm showing now is just one example of many where he's like, oh, this author is talking about a vagina. He's talking about classical sources, by the way. We're not in the Bible, right? We're in Euripides. We're in like Argonautica, right? It's like page after page. They're rubbing stuff on their vaginas. They're rubbing stuff on their vaginas. They're rubbing stuff on the vaginas. So at what point, like I checked the first source. Oh, okay. There's no vagina. There's no colcum. Okay. I guess he lied, whatever. Well, I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'll keep going, give him another shot. And then again, he does it. And again, he does it. And I check a source and I check a source. At what point do I just stop reading? Like, okay, well, I have a bookshelf full of Greek scholarship that's totally legit, where all of the footnotes check out because it was peer reviewed. Why wouldn't I just change to another book? Why do I have to keep reading this book?
Well, here's the question I'd ask you from there. Does it make sense to you that there were cults rubbing drugs on their vaginas?
I'd love to be pointed at a text where that was happening, so I can read it and say, "Oh, yeah, that's what they were doing."
That's really that simple.
I don't think
I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm saying which particular cult, what particular source. Let's get specific. I think the difference between me and Chase is very macro. He wants to see the big picture thing.
Yes, I do.
I'm very micro. I want to see every little detail.
And I love you for that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's fine. We can agree. We can see it that way.
But Chase, I mean, so what Stephen is saying, right? He's saying that, and Ammon does this all the time. You have to look at the tactics Ammon uses. He said, like the Thyrsis, for example, what Dioscorides himself says, we don't know what it is. And he's kind of upset that they never really said what it is exactly, right? They just say what it was used for. Obviously, he's a physician. He would love to know what it actually was. And there's artwork kind of depicting, and you could kind of guess what it is. I have my own theories on what that is, but I don't know what it is. So Ammon just kind of reads into things, and he says he does. He's tapping into the Vox and all this stuff, the muses and all this stuff. And that's the other thing. There's all these things that change over time. So whether
Thyrsis is a good example of that.
If you look at an image, it started out at 3, then it went to 6, then it was 9.
If you look at an image of a Thyrsis from the pottery, you know how there's a specific type of pottery with the orange paintings on them with the black background. Those are from the 5th and 6th, and maybe some of them go to the 7th century BC. If you look at a Thyrsis on those, you'll see a big flowery giant. It's not a pine cone. It's a giant flowery thing, and they're huge. They're like bigger than the people. And then you look at a Thyrsis from the Roman period, and there's these little sticks with little pine cones on them and a purple ribbon on it.
Well, I look at the ones that have, the older ones that have like Demeter and Persephone on them. And my own theory is that the reef in her hair is actually licorice, which is an MAOI, and that staff that she has is actually canary reedgrass, because canary reedgrass is 3% DMT. So the canary Phalaris brachystachys actually, which is native to that region, and it curves just like it does in nature. And she's holding it, and she's holding 2 of them in her hands. And I can show the art, but either way, it doesn't really matter. And Chase, this is what I'm saying.
I think you're talking about this one right here. If he's here, let me share my screen. I don't think he's gone, actually. That's all right.
I'm still presenting.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
To me, I don't really care like the particulars, and I don't even think like. I mean,
but that was good that you brought that up, because things change over time, context change over time. We have to be specific about if we're talking about reading a source, Homer, for example, 8th century, 9th century BCE. We got to think about what's going on in that particular time period, and then we might not be able to take Homer and apply it to a source from 400 AD because things
right,
change.
But I think
over time.
even Stephen's saying that, like, yes, it's wrong, but he doesn't. It's not like Chase is saying, well, do you not recognize they're rubbing this on their stuff and doing this? That's not even the argument here. To me, that's not even the argument. You're arguing one thing and he's saying another thing, and I just don't. I think they're completely.
Well, the implication is that all of this stuff is hoo-ha, and that's exactly kind of the soundbite argument that came from Carrier, and then they carried on to making a safe space for pedophiles. You understand the implication of what someone's communicating versus
yeah, he was wrong about that. I don't think
getting into the details.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Gnostic's on here going, hey, I want to get into the details, but he's not ignoring all of the other stuff or finding something wrong and then going, well, all of this other stuff is also hoo-ha, back to the parables. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
that's why I was friends with Ammon. I was interested in the things we had in common. We have a few things in common, Yeah.
Well, and I also remember when I was, it's not on screen right now. I was looking at this page, and I was saying the green text all checks out. Footnote 55. It's not on here. I checked that. It worked. Colchian fire. Okay, it's not. He puts quote unquote Colchian fire in the Greek. It says the fire of Colchian Medea, whatever. That's fine. Like I said, it goes all the way to number 55, and it's good. It's all fine. Like, it checks out. I checked, but it's just then you get to the pink and then the 56, and then he's saying that Ion is example of a child passed through fire because his mother Creusa applied colchicum to her vagina, and then after that, for me personally, my approach usually with like authors and books and scholarships, like, that's when it goes in the garbage for me. Now, if you are like have an attachment to Hillman and his movement and everything like that, I get that you maybe just cut him some slack, man. Like so he wanted it to be vagina. At least the word is there, right? Like the word, the word colpos is there, and it could be vagina in some contexts. Like, give him a break. Okay, fine. Like, he got this wrong. And like I said, there are other instances where it does mean it, but it's I think I know that he knows that there is no vagina here, that there is no colchicum here. He knows that. He's not a dummy. He's not incompetent. He doesn't not know Greek. He knows Greek. He said something that was not true there because he knew that his editor, by his own admission, by this admission right here from the editor, I wasn't really checking this stuff. I just let it through. He's like,
Stephen,
I'm not.
Why do you think he does what he does? I have my own opinions on it. I shared it with Mandy the other day. I think he still is a hurt Christian, that he went through what he went through, and that's what I think.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the motivation.
Well, I think it's that combined with just the success that he has found in being so sensational. Like, I mean, I wish I had like 300-400 people in my live stream, and it used to be 1,000, but like, that he's a cult following now. Like, who
he kind of still
that?
is a Christian if you think about it, because in a way he's like the ancient Canaanites, not Canaanites, Canaanites. They were Christians who decided that they didn't like Yahweh or anything in the Bible, and they wanted to flip it out. They were basically Satanists. Cain was good, Abel was bad. Satan was good, God was bad. And but if you listen to Ammon, he's not rejecting the mysteries of Christianity. He actually thinks it's all. It seems like he thinks there's a legitimate thing going on here, that these mystery rites are real.
They bastardized it by making it all male, I think, is his argument.
That might be his argument, sure.
Yeah.
So in that sense, he sort of is a Christian. He's sort of instilling the metaphysics of Christianity.
It's Athenian, it's back to the oracles and not torturing young people.
Back to my original statement, which is the drug thing, right? Is they weren't against it. The church was doing it. Not all of them, okay, who cares? But not all of them, some of them. And some of the big ones were doing them. So it wasn't the trance state that they were actually demonizing. Eventually they were, some of them. But
that's how they're getting
to me, it's they were demonizing the pagan fertility ritual of the goddess. And that's what he says. So if he was pro-Christian, why would he go back to monotheism? He wouldn't. And he's saying that the original Christian religion was based on the fertility.
Yes.
So that to me is the bigger picture, but I still think he's a hurt Christian. That's just my own opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
And like, I still stand by the idea that when he first arrived on the scene, if 10% of what he said checks out, like the goblet we found in the damn museum with the breast milk and the vaginal mucus and the blood and all that weird stuff, and who knows what else And I think there's a guy on the hunt that wrote the Nazi book, the Blitz Nazi book. He's on the hunt for more of this stuff that we haven't checked out. Like, the specifics don't matter to me anymore. What do you mean we found a goblet that goes back that far and all of this stuff is in it for like a Theriac, and he's talking about a world of antiquity that did stuff like that?
No,
if 10% is true, it's flipped, it's inverted and flipped the whole damn thing on its head. The pentagram is the cycles of Venus every 8 years. Is that correct? That's insane. We're living this inversion of like,
so,
when we, you know.
Let me see if I can try to understand where you guys are, or at least you, Chase, are coming from. Maybe
I'm out
all
there, by the way.
You are not really concerned with the academic rigor that Ammon is. You're not judging him on that. You're going for a ride with him because he's presenting so many interesting stuff to you. Every video he comes out with, he's showing you all these crazy sources, and it's just fun to watch. And you're not really concerned if he's right about everything.
I'm not concerned with the exact details, the applicable pattern, the output of a system, the physics of it.
I get it.
That is what I watch. And
I get
the output of what he's saying makes sense more to how people came up with civilization. They didn't just sit around like Elon Musk and become geniuses.
This is why I told him to start a channel 3 years ago now, before he even got on Ammon, or before he even got on Danny. I knew that he would have the ability to be a YouTuber that people were going to enjoy. Even back then,
it's not just because it's fun, though. You know what I mean?
No, like I'm just saying he's very he's energetic and charismatic. And I knew it.
Absolutely, it's a problem.
Even back then, when I was suggesting, dude, you should start your own YouTube channel. Even back then, I thought he was wrong about more than half of what he was saying at that time. I wasn't attacking him for it. Like Giorgiani, I love Giorgiani. I think he's wrong about a lot of shit, dude. But I don't attack Giorgiani because we're friends, and I just understand that's his project, and I let it be. Now, if Giorgiani ever started calling me the brothel and saying that I was lying, then I might make a Giorgiani video about why he's wrong. That's just the way I am, dude.
I don't think you're the brothel, but you could understand his argument of the salesman other side of this, which is like, when you are motivated, like, we're not rational creatures. We like to think we are, right? But we steer our ships based on like the desires, so whether they're unconscious or not. And if you're steering your ship based on greed, you're going to make decisions that constantly schism and plan and scheme around them. So I don't think you're the brothel, and it sucks.
But I also think with him, it might not be money. With him, it might not be money, and there might be, as I pointed out, when I told him to monetize his channel, he didn't say, "Oh, I have a contract with the devil, I can't." He told me he couldn't monetize because if he makes too much money, he'll lose his apartment. Whatever. Maybe he slipped on that one.
Also,
it might not be about money, but for him, I think there's a level of narcissism where he just wants attention.
Maybe. But CrossBible also, I think you have displayed character like that. You are. I still don't know actually what you believe, and that's okay. But you have displayed a very respectful character, so I wouldn't consider you a brothel person. I think you're trying to do the best you can do.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Do that.
Thank you. Can I ask you guys a question? Because I know you've geeked out on this more than me. So this is the cup of Bess because I looked into it because you were asking me, right? And I believe that the chemical, the testing that was done was published here in this article, right? So maybe you guys already have an answer to this, but the mucus, so it includes fluids like breast milk, mucus fluids, oral or vaginal, and blood. And then it's coming from this substance that they detected, mucin B5B, which can be oral or vaginal mucus. And here's my question. If they find a cup that has a protein in it that could have come from someone's mouth or from someone's vagina, it's a cup that people were ritualistically drinking from, is it more likely that it had some backwash, or is it more likely that someone extracted vaginal fluid and
if there's a lot of texts that are pointing towards that direction, or there's other things that we find and we need more evidence, then that's where I would make that decision. But what I wouldn't do is isolate that one item and throw the whole thing off, because what else was in there was psychedelics and blood and all kinds of other stuff. And for some reason, for coincidentally Ammon to be talking about similar things but maybe different ingredients, and to see that combination just appear like coincidentally, I don't see how people can say he's just hoo-hawing, making all of this up. Does that make sense?
Let me make the argument against that. Let me make the argument against that, Stephen.
Sure.
Can you scroll to the top where the abstract is?
Yeah.
So this is a fertility god, much like Jesus, which was in the homes. It wasn't in a temple. It was like in one temple they found it. So you look at these actual plants that were in there, and everybody glosses over this one. So harmalo, we all know what that is. That's an MAO analog that a lot of people use in it's Syrian rue. It's an MAOI. They use it to make ayahuasca. Then you have the blue lotus, right? We know that's an aphrodisiac, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this other thing, endoplant from the Cleome genus. Well, you look up that one, there's an Arabica, and that Arabica is used for infertility medication all throughout the area. And this is a fertility god. So would it make sense to have vagina juice in a ritualistic thing that's all about fertility with plant?
I would say it's plausible. I would leave it on the table.
Fertility and
me personally, I would leave it on the table, but I wouldn't assume that. I wouldn't go around telling people we found this and it had vaginal juice.
I mean, unless the science indicated that protein is only found in the cervico-vaginal fluids, then it would be definitive. But from what I can see, it's either saliva or vagina juice.
That's exactly what I would. I would do exactly what this paper is doing. Present it as either or. That's it.
Because it's a protein that's found in those two places. But for me, the vagina theory seems like, okay, you hear hoofs and you think of zebras.
Well, so Ruck actually ties Bess in with the Samothrace mysteries in that book that's super controversial that Ammon cites. So he actually does write a bunch about Bess, because Bess was one of these ichthyalic dwarf, like the dwarf Hercules that's on Samothrace and stuff. So he ties these particular myths together with the Samothrace mysteries. So there's interesting things that aren't Ammon to look at mythologically here.
Yeah,
so,
and by the way, when I was trying to find, I do want to see textual proof of what Ammon declares in his chapter as being super common. The application of the production of drugs in vaginas and all this stuff. Like, I really would like to see that. But I will say that the sources that I have found do confirm that menstrual blood was definitely used, and there's textual verification we can find for that.
Right.
But which, by the way, is much easier to like extract and put in a cup. Right, like we don't have any females on the panel right now, but I think there is some imagination going on in Hillman's mind when you read these detailed descriptions about how they were collecting it, and there's even a video of him telling a story about how he went to a church last week, and that the priests, I think this is a total joke, like this was definitely satire, but he told it like a straight-faced serious story about how someone collected the excreta from the priest's wife and they were passing it around and taking communion, and at no point did he stop and say, I'm just kidding, guys.
Every one of his shows is complete satire. It has the chorus in it even. Like, if you don't I don't even know the Greek stuff. I just read papers on Greek tragedies, and I'm like, every episode is that. If you don't see that, I don't understand. I mean,
I just found it really ironic that when you guys were doing an episode talking about how he's doing satire, he was simultaneously, I had it open on two screens, and he was saying like, no, I'm not doing satire, and he said Mandy was full of shite. That's what he said.
Can I, like, so you guys keep saying he's lying. I'm saying he's also lying. That motherfucker knows me. Right, I've made that motherfucker laugh so goddamn hard. I sent Witch Doctor a clip of when I was on the show with Neil and Snappy and Ammon. Witch Doctor, could you pull that one up? It's a couple. It's probably back in your text or whatever. But it's the clip of me. We did the Washing Day Festival. Remember that one, Neil, with Snappy and Ammon?
Yeah.
And I was holding out the entire time that I was there was just because I had this really, really good Heraclitus Diogenes joke. And that's the only reason that I was there. I wanted to make that joke and then end. And Ammon goes, Mandy, that's a really nerdy joke, right? Because this is the type of thing, like when we would hang out, there were literal stand-up comedians that were part of the inner circle that would hang out after a show. You know what I mean? There was a dude that would, like, just like me when I was hanging out in the studio, recording and doing writing sessions with my brother. Afterwards, on my way home, I'd hang out with Neil and Snappy and, the crew and talk about how the show went and figure out various ways to kind of help him present his stuff. You know what I mean? Like the idea with like the different colored shirts mean different things, or like the different lighting determines a different persona, that sort of thing. It was never like fully established as exactly what those personas mean and all of that stuff. And kind of part of the joke was like, maybe they don't actually mean anything and you just kind of change up the lighting to fuck with the audience. You know what I mean? Like those are all things that we literally considered, right? We talked about all of those things, you know what I mean? And like there were satirists, I'm a satirist, like in his group, there were stand-up comedians. Snappy's also a satirist. Like his inner circle were all satirists, helping him make the show more entertaining, make it more satirical. You know, the idea of like, oh, it's a parody of the Magic School Bus. You know, that's all stuff that came out of these conversations of how to make this go, you know, more viral, and like how to make, you know, like inside jokes, like the Hecate teapot. And, you know, anytime Ammon says that he's, you know, can you smell that? He's making an appeal. He's communicating to the audience, not effectively because he's not a very good actor and a very good satirist. But what that does is the change of mask that we've abandoned the text. You know, I explained this to you how aroma immediately abandons language because you can only approximate. So when he goes, can you smell that? You know, that is it's an inside joke.
I don't think that's what he's doing though. I think
but so here's the thing: is it while I was that's not a defense. I'm saying that while I was in all of these groups, like that's literally what that meant. Like the reason I did not take Greek lessons from Ammon is because I told him, unless you can teach me how to smell like a Greek, I'm not going to take Greek lessons from you. I'm just going to keep doing the stylistic critique and all of that stuff because I don't need to know the Greek yet for all of that. It's not the technical stuff. None of that. None of the.
Speaking about the Greek thing, I can't believe it just reminded me on his stream where he brought me up and said that I made it to unit 3 and then I quit. Bold, objective, compulsive lie.
Yeah.
And then just like you can imagine being me and I'm watching him do this and knowing, well, number one, a small little critique on little detail. This doesn't matter. I was in unit 4. Who cares? Maybe he thought I was in unit 3. I don't care about that. That's not the lie. The lie is that I quit. He stopped teaching me. He told me, hey, Neil, I know you've been coming to me twice a week for the last year or whatever. I think about a year. And I can no longer do one-on-ones with you. From now on, I'm doing 10-person classes for $100. I said, no, I can't do that. I need one-on-one. So I didn't quit. He stopped teaching me. The fact that he told his whole audience that I quit, that really pisses me off, dude. So just putting that out there.
He's told that story several times.
And Steven knows this because I literally started learning from Steven right after that.
Yeah.
And I never stopped ever since. Well, actually, it's been a little bit of a
break. And we went back through, like I'm his witness. We went to the beginning of Hansen and Quinn and did it from the scratch. And it was clear that like, okay, unit 1 was done. He already kind of knew it. It just had to refresh his memory. Then we got to unit 2, unit 3, and then we got into unit 4.
Yeah, like, and I still have my pages.
Yeah, he has the dog ears. He has all like
from unit 4, but that's not the part. He might have actually thought that I was in unit 3. I don't care about that.
Maybe I don't
think he lied about that. The fact that I quit was a bold-faced lie.
Hey Neil, can I ask you a question? Yeah. So I'm listening to all this from the outside because I was never a Christian. So I don't have skin in the game, right? But I see a lot of culture. So the Mayans also did Ammon, to get high and different things they would put in their ass. That's why I always look at these guys and I'm like, the devil, like, who cares? Who cares? I mean, we got to walk forward into the future. So I don't really care if they're doing all this dildo stuff back then in the day. Oh, cool. But what does that mean for us? Are you guys going to fly to Greece to put a dildo up your ass with, DMT in it? I mean, what? No.
We got dildos.
What are people doing? They're flying to the Amazon to pay $5,000 to drink ayahuasca with down there. So like, what is the point? That's my thing. Is this just content generation? Because he want to say your guys are the brothel, but then he's selling courses. He's getting people interested. They're coming in, selling courses. I don't have nothing against anybody trying to make money. That's just the world we live in, right?
Right. We're all stuck in a rat race. I don't have a welfare apartment like he does. I have to work. I have to pay rent.
So I want to look at the bigger picture, and it's somebody from the outside, and I'm going, who gives a shit? I'm interested in where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We're not going to go back into the Greek world. We're not going to go back to the Mayan world. We take all this culty stuff, and my vision is I hope we don't revert back to cult, right? I never was really a part of a cult to begin with. So I'm outside of it, and maybe that's my own thing and how I think. But I see the Ammonites, I see this group, I see that group. And to me, it's all nerdy shit. I nerd on drugs just because I like to learn about it. But I'm not sitting here going, you guys better put cannabis ointment on your head, or else you're not following the actual ritual and all this stuff. So my question is, like, what is the point of all this? Like, you had the guy recently on your show that said how much of history was lost, how much written text was lost, 85% or whatever, 95%, he said.
So like 98%, he said.
Yeah. So like, what's the deal? Where are we going?
Right.
I mean, for me, it's just like he claims that in, Nonus's paraphrase of the Gospel of John 12:10-16, that the scene where Mary, Nonus takes some liberties, right? Like he has things going on that John doesn't, right? Where she takes a crystal jar and she sops up the rich moisture with her hair. Like he says that Nonus is describing, and I think he says this about John too, that Nonus is describing her penetrating him with the alabastron. I mean, if it's satire, like you could laugh at it, ha ha ha, Jesus is getting screwed with an alabastron, like that's okay. But that's
actually
not
genuinely believe that.
That's not what the text says. So if there's a guy who's saying, I have a PhD in classics, I'm a world-renowned Greek expert. In fact, the best. Nobody's as good as me, including like Greek people and like anybody throughout history. And I'm telling you, based on my authority, that this is just what the text. I'm just translating, people. It's just what the text says, and it's like that across the board for everything. Yeah, I got a problem with it. I mean, I get what your perspective. Like, who cares? But I care. I just care about like what how to properly interpret and translate texts. And if you want to paraphrase it a little bit, that's fine. If you want to make your translation rhyme, that's fine. And then maybe you got to twist some of the words. If you want to be super literal word for word and try to get it to align perfectly, that's also good. But
I get you. I get what you're doing. I'm not saying that. So I get you. I get Gnostic. I get Chase. I get Mandy. Everybody having their own opinions about the past, the history, right? My question is like, what do we do with it? Like, what is the do we just fragment into cult again, or do we do something else with it and say, hey, look, all of that shit was kind of weird, goofy stuff, right? No matter what it was, it could be this, could be that, whatever. But what are we taking from the past and incorporating into our lives and moving into the future? I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have, we all have kids here, whatever, but like, what are we doing with this information for the future generations? Is it just exposing that this was potentially happening and that all this stuff was just a satire, Greek tragedy, Roman tragedy, the way it was written and play written, whatever? Is that the point? And then people can listen to that and then take it forward how they want. Maybe they still go to church, maybe they don't, whatever. I don't really know I just see all this, like, it's in the air. It's just a bunch of people bickering back and forth about what happened, when I don't really think we're ever really going to know exactly what they did. And it was probably different in every location, right? Because you had different cults doing different. Yeah. And it's like, well, are you trying to? Because he even says like, oh, this is the Renaissance. This is the Like, no, I'm not gonna. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not gonna go get burning purple somewhere and stick it up my ass and have some sort of divine revelation with somebody. I'm just not doing it.
Tiger.
Well, that's why people like Carrier and Derek, when they watch him, they're wondering, is this guy promoting this or is he condemning it? They can't really tell, and I don't blame them for that. It's hard to tell.
He talks about some Renaissance thing, and I'm like, well, actually, good question for you, Neil. You know that there was I don't know if you talk about this, the Greek Dark Ages, right?
Yeah, the early Iron Age.
And they went to Phoenician, they brought it back, and all this other stuff. And what came out of that? That was a lot of the playwrights that came out of it. It was like a mini Greek Renaissance that came out of that whole thing.
Yeah, right? Well, you get the Homeric age right after the Greek Dark Ages, and then the Classical period. Yeah, so it's like, are we just going to go back? So there was already cults, and then all that. Zeus is from the Minoans, right? The Minoans had a young god, right, that they found a statue of that had gold on him, and they're like saying they're equating them to him being a young Zeus, right? So like, it's just cults after cults after cults. And is that what we're going to do again? Are we just going to end up in a bunch of goofy cults again? Like the guy that says he sees the DMT laser and everybody's like, oh God, we live in the Matrix. We're in the Matrix, man. I tried that. I tried that with. I was with Danny Jones and Giorgiani, and we did DMT and we looked at the laser, and it's real. You can. It looks like it's so weird, dude. Because as soon as the DMT wore off,
I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
In LSD,
it's obviously part of the hallucination. I'm saying.
Greca for crying out
What's
loud.
the application?
But TigerShark, do you enjoy movies? Do you have like a favorite movie or a favorite book or a favorite trilogy, like the Lord of the Rings? You like the Matrix? I don't know. Is there like do you have a cultural digest that really brings like joy to your life that you like, that entertains you?
Movies,
literature. Do you like the Lord of the Rings? Do you like, what do you like?
I like Altered States.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're in an altered state, do you like to watch, like, I don't know, Requiem for a Dream and like totally like trip out, or like, you know, did you watch The Matrix on acid?
That's not the movie you want to watch on.
Yeah, dude, what are you talking about?
The Matrix trilogy, or like,
I like
you
the
know,
Blob
like
from 1950.
Okay, I mean, like, okay, I guess maybe you're not into that sort of thing, but like, I would answer your question about who cares to the same thing. Like, there are people who are just like big Star Wars fans. They love Star Wars, and when The Last Jedi comes out, they get really pissed off because they're like raping their childhood with this, like, you know, woke Disney stuff. You know, like, it really matters to people. Like people experience art in certain stages of their life. Like when I was a teenager, like, man, I saw The Matrix on shrooms in the movie theater when it first came out with those special effects. Like, that was like a life-changing experience to me. Like, for me, it wouldn't be like, oh, like, who cares about the Matrix?
No, I get your position. You're coming from it like you're Greek, right? This is your deal, right?
No, I'm American. I'm not Greek at all. I just feel like when I'm just able to, like, through the language, transport myself into the past and read the foundational literature in the original language. Some in translation, it's fine too. But I'm able to read the stuff that like set the model for all of the entertainment that I enjoy in the 21st century.
Why would you do that with only 5% of the written language?
Because what's been 5% of the written language, what's been preserved is probably the best stuff. I mean, we probably lost a lot of good stuff, you know, like we don't have all of the works of Euripides, right. But what's been preserved of Euripides is really good. It's worth reading, it's worth preserving, and it's worth translating.
Oh, I'm not saying
accurately.
Yeah, I'm not saying not read it. I'm just saying, like,
really
why would you?
Really good stuff made it through the end, made it through time, you know.
But does your question extend to why do I care if the English translation I'm reading refers to her you know, holding the God in her embrace when he came in her? No. Or you know, it's like I don't care. Like I understand what's behind embrace, but I just get to peek under the hood because I know Greek. If you were just reading the translation, you would see embrace. But I wouldn't like just sort of say who cares. Like, it's a foundational piece of the literature of Western culture.
Right.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, I guess. I mean, Neil and I see different on that too. I don't think that the U.S. Constitution has anything to do with Greece. Actually, in 1995, there was.
No, I'm not talking about our government. I'm talking about like Chase was going. Chase was telling us about the hero's journey. Like, if you study the hero's journey, like the Greeks, like, you know, I mean, maybe they got it from someone else, but they really codified it.
They had the catabasis and the anabasis, the descent and the ride. That was a very common trope in all the Greek stories.
That's everywhere.
Even Xenophon's war stories. Yeah. Even Xenophon's war stories, which are history, it's not even a myth or a legend. Even he applies the catabasis and the anabasis to that story. It's called the anabasis. The name of
Xenophon. It's seen all over the world. I mean, literally, it's seen all over the world. And to your point, I think you mentioned it last time, Neil. We have statues, literally the two where they're holding the lightning bolts and all this stuff all over the world. You have Demeter on Eleusis with her hands with the snakes in them, like this. Yeah. Every single culture, from Angkor Wat to Göbekli Tepe to, you know, all over the place. We literally have these.
I got one right here.
Books on this stuff. And maybe they're all getting to the same thing, kind of like Neil said. He did see this matrix laser.
That's the old Thyrsis. See how big it is? It's not a pine cone. I don't know what that is.
No, there's papers written on that. People saying, "Wow, it looks like a pine cone."
Yeah, well, the later ones are. If you look at the Roman ones, the statues are holding a pine cone with a ribbon. That I don't know what that is.
No, type in.
Where was this made? Were pine trees even native to, you know, wherever this like?
There's pine trees there. But look at this Thyrsis. Watch, I'll show you where you can see it's definitely a pine cone. Look at right here. It's definitely a pine cone.
No. Hey. Slow down.
This one, definitely a pine cone.
No, that's not definitely a pine cone.
What else is that?
That's Phalaris brachystegus. It's canary reedgrass.
I have one on my arm, and it's
look it up.
Definitely a pine cone. The one on my arm.
Well, here's the different various theorists right here. So
look at it. Look, I'm telling you, look up Phalaris brachystegus.
Yeah, but you're saying that's not a pine cone?
No, it's not.
Is that a new AI image?
Okay,
no,
Neil,
that's
what
amazing. What is it called? Let me look it up. What is it called?
Phalaris?
How do you spell it?
I mean, there are lots of different trees that have those on them that aren't pine trees in Greece.
Yeah, I'm just whatever that is then.
What would be the applicable purpose of a pine cone versus a
pine cone
that makes you trip balls and
exactly. This is exactly what I mean. Pine cones are the symbol of
picture,
hold on. Friend? Pine cones are the symbol of regeneration in ancient antiquity. So it actually makes sense. But you're talking about this one right here?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that being it.
That's 3% DMT, and it's higher than acacia and mimosa, actually.
Wow. Yeah, I bet you. I think you're probably right. But that's not that giant picture from the first one I showed. That's not. Those are tiny.
I mean, do you see the wheat they blow up, bro? The wheat is bigger than Demeter's damn head.
I know, but look at this one. That's not the thing you just showed me. I don't know what unless those bigger ones in Greece somewhere. I don't know.
No, but there's probably different. So this is why Dioscorides was even trying to figure out way back then, and he was mad about it. He's like, I'm upset that they didn't say what it was, and so you ended up with people interpreting it in different ways, and that's just like Ammon was doing. You know, Ammon does it too. I mean, but even Pliny the Elder, there's like 6 different things that he says people are doing to get high and go on these things. And nobody knows what they are. He doesn't say what they are. They're compound drugs, but he never.
Look at this one. This is Dionysus. This is Dionysus. Look at that one. That is something. I don't know what that is. That's not.
Can't see your screen.
You can't see my screen?
No.
Okay.
No, that's a Phalaris. And look at his head. You know what is that on his head? Tell me what that's on.
That's the ivy.
No, it's not. Well,
that's ivy. That's how they describe ivy. I'm telling you. I know for a fact.
Okay, what ivy?
What do you mean? What ivy?
Which one? Who told you? Here, let me pull.
Who told me all the depictions of ivy in ancient antiquity?
No.
Yo, mama.
Plutarch says this: Roman questions, not altogether without plausibility. There are they who assert that ivy, possessing as it does an exciting and distracting breath of madness, deranges persons and agitates them, and in general brings on a wineless.
I know this.
And joyousness in those who are precarious disposed towards spiritual exaltation. You think getting drunk on wine?
Right, but why? How would this not be ivy then? It's still ivy. That's what Dionysus wears on his head. Everyone knows that.
I don't think 10 different. I mean,
it's in 10 different sources that Dionysus wears the wreath of ivy. It's in Plutarch, the one you just. It's in the same source that you just cited.
I don't think that but he says wineless.
I know ivy. Why would he have wine on his head?
Why would he say that they're getting drunk on ivy, but it's a wineless drunk?
Ivy is the wreath that you wear that puts you into frenzy. That's in Alexander Romance too. And the reason why this is what the Alexander Romance says. They put ivy on their head after Dionysus. That's what it says.
Who's they though? This is my point.
Alexander. Alexander.
Accounts of what's going on here. This guy's
every single primary source says that Dionysus wears a wreath of ivy.
Jimi Hendrix wore LSD.
I'm going to show you. the sources right now.
What the ivy is, and that's the point of me reading
ivy.
This, because wineless drunkenness means it's not a grapevine.
Yeah, ivy is the green plant that grows on the side of the mountains.
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, I think it is.
It also grows. It also grows. It has a symbiotic relationship with grapevines. You find them in all of our grapevines.
Yes, but that's what my point is. He's saying it's a wineless drunkenness, which to me says it's not grapes.
I didn't say ivy was grapes. Ivy's not grapes.
Okay, good, because that's what I'm saying too.
Okay, but ivy's not grapes. No.
What I'm looking at actually is for MAOIs in the area, and there's actually a bunch of art that looks like licorice. Licorice is an MAOI, monooxidase inhibitor, anidase and oxidase inhibitor, and that's used to actually activate the DMT. So the canary reedgrass with that, not this thing that they had naphtha that they're using, like we extracted today. I think that's kind of ridiculous, actually. Yes, they had naphtha, they had lye, but I don't think they were using it to extract. That would be a little bit, I don't know, out of the.
No, you would need a lot of technology for that.
But they also say almost every single drink that they make is in a social setting, right? That they're using the wine, that it's mixed with wine, right? The reason they're doing that just to extract the compounds out of the plants.
Look at this. Ready? There's the ivy wreath right there. We have them, and we've found them actually. Look, it's the exact same shape.
Yes, that's
an ivy wreath.
What I'm bringing up is the Plutarch quote.
Yeah, but Plutarch isn't saying that the ivy isn't the wreath that Dionysus wears. He's just saying what the ivy does. And I've known that. Yeah. I've known that sources. I've seen sources where it does say, and they put on the ivy and went into madness. I've seen those sources, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great had the same story in the Romance.
Now, people ask me, why do you watch Ammon? Honestly, when I heard that there was a PhD with this Greek stuff that had also a medical degree, like in bacteriology and stuff, I thought I was going to tune in and hear him say, like, connect all these artworks to the actual plant species and say, hey, they were making, like Sasha Shulgin does, right? Or the Lazy School of Hedonism did back in the day. I thought that's what I was going to tune into, and I didn't get any of that shit. I didn't get any of it. And I'm doing it on my own and with others too, that are on like Discord, like It's the Blunt Life Discord, I'm on there. And we're all trying to track down some of this stuff with Bearcat and other people and stuff like that to see what we can find. That's how I stumbled across the native plants that are in this area and how that differs from these cults and different cults all around the world. But then I look at also how they brought in the drugs, right? There's different, what is it? Thebes, the city, Thebes. Yeah. That's where they grew a lot of the poppy, right? And that was a different species they grew there. And it was in the artwork from another location that they had it. They even had a polis where they were popular in a little section.
They got that at Eleusis too, which is right. Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Rise above the beasts.
Yeah. Here's a source that I was talking about from Plutarch, Moralia. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
It says right here, more of the Greeks want to consecrate the ivy to Dionysus. And it said that among the Egyptians, the name for ivy is Kinosiris, the meaning which they say the plant of Osiris. By the way, that's because they're equated with each other. But yeah, ivy. Yeah. Ivy's sacred to Dionysus.
Yes, and I have my own opinions on that though. So if we look at all the medicines, right? What are they putting? What is the base? It's always wine. Why?
Frankincense and myrrh. I'm sorry.
Well, they're putting in some cases they are, but the wine is the base because it's extracting the plants. When they mix in these other plants, that's what it's doing. I think they even say Dionysus is. They
don't always use wine though for kukion.
There's some acidic.
There are some sources that say to make kukion, it's prohibited to even use wine. There are other sources though that say they do use wine for kukion.
Well, some of them use vinegar, no?
Well, I think vinegar is technically wine. Yeah, it's still the same. It's just more. What do you call it? You just waited longer, basically.
Yeah,
to make
it works on multiple plants where the acidity breaks open a compound.
There's a lighter one that they used in a social setting that sounds like kukion. I forget the name of it. I have it written down somewhere. Have to find it.
Anyway, I think we're getting close to 3 hours, but this has been cool, man. We've hashed things out pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it was quite the wrestling match that we led on that everybody was gonna have. It was a battle royale. We just all got along and said, yeah, we agree with everybody. We're just being, silly.
Yeah, well, I think the missing ingredient though is that it was kind of set up because, maybe this is a question to ask. How I felt watching the Carrier and Myth Vision interview was, it felt very propagandized because there was no, I understand that I'm not against their position. I'm not like whatever else, but to make a whole video that just basically slanders him and then aligns him with pedophiles, and then that's the end, was just like, holy.
Does he not put images on the screen throughout his streams of Jesus with a little kid kissing him?
Yeah, and all of if you watch his work,
and then go,
the only thing I've gotten out of it is like,
start spanking the ground. I don't blame them for getting weirded out by him a little bit.
Right, but that's the theater of it, right? That's the.
Yeah, but if you're calling Derek the brothel and saying that he's like he's all about money and he's lying and he's bringing on scholars that are lying to you, and then Derek, what do you want Derek to do? Derek sees that and goes, "Look at this fucking weirdo," and that's just how he sees it.
to have a spine and to say something like, hey man, you're allowed to have that opinion and Ammon could be wrong, but calling someone a pedophile or someone who makes a safe space for pedophiles is crossing the fucking line, man, because that makes humans kill each other.
I mean, I disagree that I don't think that he's making a safe space for pedophiles, but I will say it does seem like he does go a little bit on the, he glorifies it a little bit, I think.
I mean, like I took a screenshot of the image last night just to preserve it. Like the Jesus, like totally making out with the little tiny, with the little boy.
Yeah. He had to go to ChatGPT. He had to go to Midjourney and type in Jesus kissing a little boy, prompt, enter, print it out, get it ready. He had to do all of that. That's kind of crazy.
Or Chewie had to do all of that, which is even more crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, you guys know why that stuff started was because he used to actually have like pictures of like, that like actual paintings and stuff. Yeah. And
not of Jesus kissing a boy.
No. So he used to have but there were like paintings and stuff that had naked children and all of that stuff, and that started getting getting flagged. So what he ended up doing was putting like upside down crosses to censor the stuff, and that got really tired out very quickly. So it just became like, oh, you just use Midjourney to get weird with it. So there was
listen to what you just said. He used to put up pictures of kids naked.
No. Art.
Why would that be cool?
Well, I'm saying that
from
paintings and art
from
and
antiquity,
stuff
right?
The one
these
that
are horrible
everybody
things
showed
that people did. We can't just pretend they didn't happen.
Right.
Somebody approved. Like, look, I imagine that Chewie prompted that image, got it. I don't know if Ammon approved it before it hit the screen, but it hit the screen and I'm traumatized by it. I'm sorry. I could have gone without seeing that AI generated image.
That's a fair point.
But he'll put those on the screen and say things like, "Oh, you love it, don't you?"
Hey, but let me ask you guys,
Timmy,
you guys
it's
like
Timmy.
He's not very clear. To be fair, like I get what you guys are saying. I know that he's not promoting it. I get it. I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
But it does seem like a lot of times he's not very clear that he's going, look at this image from antiquity. Look what they did to these poor kids. They were doing pederasty. I'm glad we don't do that. It's not clear that that's what he's saying. Sometimes it looks like he's glorifying it and actually promoting it. It looks like
I think it's like an exact contrast to how Jesus is presented now, which is perfect and pure and never did anything wrong. It's like taking the exact and saying like this story's inverted. You know what I mean? It's taking it to such an extreme to smack you in the face with it.
He literally said on a picture of a kid that was like behind Jesus with purple on him again, that he looked handsome or something like that. I'm like, I just was like thinking about them, like, what, dude?
Yeah, so that's why I mean. When someone like Derek, who doesn't like Ammon anyway because Ammon calls him the brothel, when he sees that, what do you think he's going to do? You know what I mean?
So right, but also one of the overall, our overarching points that I was trying to make is that, part of satire and part of presenting it in this mode and that style is being provocative, being exaggerated, being over the top, trying to gross out, your audience. It's a well-established tradition, you know what I mean? And that was like part of the reason why, the actual paintings of nude children and like all of that gross stuff was used originally. So the AI was just a way to take it and make it even more over the top and all of that shit. So, I mean, you get a good idea and it fucking snowballs into, whatever the hell when you don't have creative people around you and you're just using AI, you know what I mean? Like you end up getting these results. He doesn't have a group of creatives around him anymore that are like, but why that are saying anything to him? You know what I mean?
Why even make those though?
Well, that's what I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm saying that like part of the act is doing that, like, grossing out your audience and trying to elicit that vulgar feeling and all of that. Like that's part of the act, and it's always been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because it's part of the act, that puts it in the style and category of satire. You know what I mean?
Well, that's not what he says, though. He doesn't.
I know, but you guys also admit that he's lying. You admit that he's lying on this. He's lying on that. He's lying on this. You know what I mean? Like you can't. He doesn't get to determine what is and what is not satire. You know what I mean? Like if he is doing it and it is for this reason, just because he doesn't call it satire, he says it's not satire. It's like no, you're using satire as a mode to communicate. your message, right? Just because I don't agree with your message doesn't mean that that I say he's not doing satire. He's not doing good satire. It's not satire that, you know, I think is amazing or anything, but it still is nevertheless, and by all definitions and categories, satire. You know what I mean?
Let me put it to you this way. If in your town right now there was a 35 or 30-year-old guy hanging out with, let's be real generous, 70 to 20-year-old people, and it was just a flock of them, and they had sold everything and given them to him, and he was just commanding them and walking around, and they like left their parents and left everything, and they're going around town, they're staying in hotels and doing like little secret dinners and parties and stuff. What would you guys think? Do you understand that guttural instinct inside of you as a human being? Even if you're wrong, what would be your initial kind of gut reaction of those plot points?
Today, that'd be weird. But I do know in antiquity that there were teachers with young disciples all over the place. This was kind of the thing that was going on there.
And a lot of it was fucked up.
And a lot of those, had
not just in Christianity.
That's why I bring up the disciple whom Jesus loved on Julian Dory's podcast. I go, whoa, there is a weird thing going on about the disciple whom Jesus loved, the youngest of all of them. He's hanging out on Jesus's lap. I point that out. I'm not hiding from this stuff.
You're not. Also, one other thing. Specifically, Mark 14:51-52. Jeremy Bentham wrote about that 200 years ago, saying, you know, this seems like there's like a potentially like this person could be like a prostitute or a slave or something like that going on here, where there might be a sexual thing.
Yeah, and that's in Morton Smith too.
No, exactly. So this isn't new stuff to interpret it this way.
It's new to say there's a naked prepubescent child that's being used to extract
bandage
drugs.
On a
No, exactly. No, that's all new.
If you want to add one detail, fine. If you want to add 10, it's like, well,
that's what I'm saying. Is like, you know, I think all of us can agree at some point Ammon starts sticking feathers in his ass, and as like actual critics, you know, determining where he's sticking feathers in his ass and what is actual good scholarship below that, you know what I mean? Or you can think of it as like an ice cream sundae, and then he takes a cherry and pulls it out of his ass and puts it on top. You know what I mean? Like he tainted the entire sundae, but you know, the ice cream was good at one point, you know what I mean? Just because he put a shit covered cherry on top, you know, it doesn't mean that ice cream isn't good.
And I'm not a linguist either, so I try not to go down that rabbit hole of trying to tell people about like the translations and stuff. Like I can sit at home and I've broken down a lot of words and like follow the roots and stuff. But dude, I mean, it takes me so long, even with all the great technology. So one day maybe I can have enough time to get down that rabbit hole and start making the argument from that. But from where I come from the plot points, from evocation, from the evolution, from the neuroscience and all the other stuff, it's like the specifics don't it's like it doesn't really matter as much as like the pattern, the output of the system, that the pattern seems to start making sense, you know.
Well, Chase, when you say rabbit hole, you mean anus, because you know the Urban Dictionary says that rabbit hole means anus.
Yes.
So you know, I'm just saying, right now you just said, you know, I don't want to go down that anus, and I totally get you, man. Anuses are gross, you know. That's where the ambrosia is and all that.
Well,
stuff.
Speaking of anus, there's one part in the Toxicology Antiquity where there's a random footnote that doesn't really support the text, where he says that the anal exudate of Dionysus, as described in Aristophanes' Frogs, is like the sweat coming off of Jesus's face. Like it's that's like, I'm paraphrasing. That's what he said.
Nonus is that? Nonus?
No, Aristophanes' Frogs, according to Hillman's citation. It says that there's this anal exudate.
So there is anal exudate in Frogs that's actually in Henderson, and it talks about like, you know, poop and stuff like that. So there is actually a piece in Henderson about.
There is a passage,
but there is anal exudate. You know what I mean? This
is it right here. So can you show it on screen? It's hilarious. Like it's the footnote to this. So he says they will place their hands on sick people and and they will get well. Right. So it's 77. You look down in 77 and he's given this whole thing about the Gospel of Mark and the NIV and like, you know, Thanasimon and like all this stuff. And then he goes, the word used to describe the physical substance that exudes from Jesus in the garden, which is in a spurious verse, is also used to describe the exudate of the anus of Dionysus and Aristophanes' Frogs. No chapter, no line, like nothing. And man, I was digging through Aristophanes' Frogs,
Check Henderson.
I could check the primary source. I found the part where Dionysus basically craps himself. But okay, fine. He has diarrhea. How? Just somebody help me here. Like, what the word used to describe Jesus's sweat that literally just says it's sweat is the same, is just the substance that exists. Like, like, I don't know what he was smoking when he wrote this part, but it doesn't check out. It's kind of funny. It's unrelated to any of this.
It's also funny how he cites his sources with his own opinions. Like, it'll say, here's the text, right? And then it'll say 77 citation. You go on to 77, and it's just him talking about what he thinks is going on.
Yeah, no, but that's his whole authority stick. That's why he ropes people in. He says, "Are you? Oh yeah, but you're not a PhD, and you can't read this."
Do you guys know the recurring theme? This is style stuff here. The recurring theme as to why Dionysus shits himself in frogs so often. It's the mention of Cerberus and the seeing of Cerberus. So he has such a fear of Cerberus. So it happens first when he goes to visit Hercules in the above world to ask him, hey, what's the best way to get down, right? He mentions Cerberus, he craps his pants. And then he goes down and there's the off-scene monster, and it's described as being like one of the dogs of Hecate, and that's Cerberus. And then another time, so it happens 3 times, which is a motif for within comedy to have the same thing happen 3 times. So Dionysus shits himself 3 times, and they all have to do with mentions of Cerberus. What do I know about Cerberus? I only wrote 8 books.
See, that's what I love.
I only wrote 8 books about Cerberus.
The irony and the reverses and stuff. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I don't. Here's the thing: I didn't need to know a lick of Greek to recognize that within the text. You know what I mean? I'm looking at styles, I'm looking at motifs, and I'm going, okay, like I didn't need to read the name, the word Kerberos or anything like that.
So
the dog.
So Ammon just decided that reminded him of Jesus.
Yeah, just in his mind, because he went and did Dionysus is Jesus, frogs, butt stuff on the face, blah, and just like shat an idea out there, and it just goes unchecked. It's mind blowing, right? Like when I read Ammon's stuff, it almost sounds like this is what I think's going on in his mind. He's trying to be like Ruck. Because when you read Ruck, he does a lot of stuff like this where he'll allude to things that might be a little bit past what most scholars would do, but he keeps it you can tell he's like very careful about it. Ammon, it almost seems like Ammon's trying to do that, but doesn't know when to like cap off how far you can take it. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You guys, so I don't know how closely you guys paid attention, and Witch Doctor, I'm queuing you up for a video queue here right now, so I'm vamping a little bit while you pull this up. But I actually in all of this stuff, my comedic mind, I'm trying to constantly coin phrases and trying to come up with ways to creatively describe this stuff to people. And I coined a phrase recently, reviewing all of this Ruck stuff and the myth of Samothrace. He appeals to puns, like so often in his work, right? So I came up with what is called Ruck's Scooter, and Ruck's Scooter is a take on Occam's razor, right? So Ruck's Scooter goes as such, which is, are you sure it's not a pun, right? And that's very, very artistic, right? That stimulates so much, like, oh, what can that be? What does that mean? Like, where can you go with that? Like, creatively as well as scientifically, right? So Ruck's Scooter is one of these ways of like bridging this gap between art and science of philology. And I would like to have Witch Doctor please play the video that I prepared to explain everybody what Ruck's Scooter is. We can't hear it.
Scooter, ride through myth. Get whacked with wit. Call me Dr. Shinbanger, PhD. I did the research so you don't have to. Are you and your friends arguing about the age of Aeneaniskos? Go touch grass and take a ride on Ruck's Scooter only at shop.scobiwan.com. Use promo code Gnostic to make a donation to buy dog food for underprivileged families. Get yours now. Shop.scobiwan.com. Promo code Gnostic.
Thanks, everybody. That's Ruck's Scooter. Just when you're looking at all this stuff, and just ask yourself.
Ruck's Scooter.
You just ask yourself, is it a pun? And then you're into artwork. You're having fun with the text. You know what I mean? And you might actually learn something about ancient puns and stuff. So take a ride on Ruck's scooter. Everybody just calm down and touch grass. It's going to be okay.
Don't do a heel flip.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and cut us off.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
And look out for the next Battle Royale. We'll
Thanks,
have other faces and whatnot, but I really appreciate it. Anybody want to say anything real quick before we go?
Myths taken literally makes children of men, and life is, you know, you're meant to dance while the music's playing. So keep going, everybody.
Read the New Testament like it's a comedy, satire. Why? Let's look at Matthew 4:2 real quick. After recounting that Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, Matthew deadpans, and afterwards he was hungry.
How about read Euripides Bacchae like it's the gospel? Why don't you
Oh, challenge accepted.
Everybody check out
Thank you.
CrossBible.com.
Yeah, sorry, we do have a bug happening right now where some JavaScript is firing and pushing the scroll up to the top. I documented it while we were on this call, so I
had all these CrossBible verses I was ready to pull up and I couldn't do it.
It'll probably get fixed tomorrow, but if anybody's been paying attention, if you're on the Discord or if you're a subscriber on CrossBible, we have a lot of new features that just came out. They're hot off the press, and I have two options. I can either release them in like a testing environment and test the crap out of it, and then like wait a month until we iron out all the kinks and then make it public. But what I've just been doing is just making it public right away, because most of our users, like, you know, Neil and like you guys, are like sort of early adopters. So I'm counting on you to be tolerant and just tell me, hey, dude, there's a bug on the site, rather than like, you know, just sit around for hours testing and trying to figure it out. This one is weird though. It just like popped up. I just found out about it on the stream, but I created a bug report. It should get fixed
it's
tomorrow.
still doing it. I was just going to say it stopped doing it, but it is.
It definitely needs to be redeployed. It'll be fixed tomorrow. But notice, like that's dark mode. We didn't have dark mode support very recently. If you open up the Bible, like that little cap and gown on the top right, we got a bunch new. We got like new notes feature. We have like bookmarks, highlighting. I got the Thayer's lexicon is integrated. We have a textual apparatus now. So all that stuff is available for $5 a month. If you can help a brother out, like go and subscribe and, sign up for the $5 a month tier. It unlocks a lot of cool things that are getting cooler by the day. We just, as long as I'm able to afford to pay the guys that I need to pay to fix the bugs and to make the improvements. So that's, thanks to everybody who's helping out with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Pardon me? Oh, yeah. No, I was just saying I already said it. I flipped TigerShark's read the Gospels like they're counting. I said read Euripides like it's the gospel.
All right, Mandy. Anything?
Yeah, I would like to close with a little bit of a reading from my book here. It says, "Hail Eris."
Nice. Hail Eris.
All right, guys.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right, guys. I'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much.